Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Happy Friday, everybody, and happy opening day down at the ballpark. Fish getting the season going at the ballpark tonight. Looking forward to that. And, of course, we got a beautiful forecast for May-long weekend. But before we get to the weekend, it's time for a couple hours of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Packed show today, and there's a lot to get to. Breaking news from the National Hockey League. Some very interesting words from a, I guess, technically now former member of the Jets organization. And Bomber training camp continues. Preakness coming up, and we will get Kenny Insider on the show as well. Ken Wiebe jumping on with us to hit the latest on the Winnipeg Jets offseason, and the big news today from the NHL that Kyle Dubas is out as the GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs. We've got a 4-overtime classic to talk about. We've got the Winnipeg Ice playing for their playoff lives tonight, so buckle up. Should be a great couple hours, and of course we'll finish it off with a marble race heading into the long weekend. Great to have you all with us. Darrin Bauming, as I mentioned, will also jump on with us and give us the latest from Blue Bomber training camp. And Kirt Contois, he gave us Mage 2 weeks ago for the Kentucky Derby. We'll find out who his pick for the Preakness is before we drop the marbles just before 3 p.m. Great to have you all with us. If you're just finding us, folks, make sure to hit that red subscribe button and join us daily, Monday to Friday. Well, with the exception of this coming Monday, because, of course, it is Victoria Day, and hit that red subscribe button, YouTube, 1 p.m. Central. And if you're finding us on YouTube and you would like the audio version of Winnipeg Sports Talk, it's available right after the show every day in time for your drive home. If you're a 9-to-5er, search Winnipeg Sports Talk wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Big thanks to the sponsors that make this show happen each and every day. Our great partners over at Coolbet, Princess Auto, Little Brown Jug, the award-winning Little Brown Jug, Aikens Lake, Breezy Bend, Royal Sports, BP, Consolidated Supply, Princess Auto, Nick and Nicky DQ, F Apparel, Wallace & Wallace, Vita Health, Canadian Club Whiskey, Manitoba Battery, Aquatech, Modern Man, Assiniboia Downs, opening day Monday, and our good friends at the Winnipeg Gold Eyes who get things going tonight with a 6:30 start down at Shaw Park. Let's get this thing going and welcome in Michael Remis. Remo, what is up?
How's it going? I'm feeling good. I got my badge here on my shirt today. I stayed awake for the 6th longest game in NHL history. Achievement unlocked. Although it was only ended at 1 o'clock. It wasn't like other overtime games. You know, they reference the Vancouver-Dallas one, because that was a West Coast game. I remember staying up very late for that one. And the Anaheim-Dallas one from 2003 as well. That one, I think I had like grad that night. Now I'm dating myself, and came home and it's like 4 a.m. and this game is still on. So, I don't know. I stayed up for it last night. It was only 1 o'clock, so it doesn't feel too significant. But 6th longest game in NHL history yesterday. So feeling good this morning.
Yeah, well, I'm feeling it as well. I went out with some pals to watch the game and figured I'd, take off at the end of the game and, get back at a relatively reasonable time. 1 overtime. 2 overtime, 3 overtimes, and to be honest, the goal was so late, I kind of thought that we were going to be getting into a 5th overtime, and at that point, we were wondering whether the bar was going to close at 2 a.m. before it was over. Matthew Tkachuk, and that was a heartbreaker. My God, we had a great lock shop exclusive. We needed Burns and Aho to get a point. That happened on the first goal. Canes to win under 6.5. All we needed was the Canes to get the W. It didn't happen last night. First blood for the Florida Panthers. And I will say this, Reem, the best part of that game going through overtime was all the close-ups of Paul Maurice on the Florida Panthers bench. I mean, you could put together a montage of Maurice rangouts just from last night's game that would be as good as any coach in the National Hockey League all year long. He's intense. He's coaching his ass off right now. His team's playing his ass off right now. And that was a very, very memorable game and a hell of a way for the 8th seed, the lowest seeded team, the lowest point total team in the Stanley Cup playoffs to do it again. and get up 1-0 on a team on the road. And now the Panthers have home ice advantage in this series.
Yeah, I'm starting to miss Paul Maurice, Huss. I mean, you could have made like a season's worth of gifts. I agree with you. From last night's outbursts, every penalty call, every call, he's mouthing like F off to the refs. So intense. I mean, it's amazing to watch Paul Maurice here in the conference final, now 3 games away from a Stanley Cup final. And to start in a picture, Paul Maurice the storyline 1 year after leaving the Winnipeg Jets. Paul Maurice captures the Stanley Cup with the Florida Panthers. And how crazy that would be. And again, there was another former Jet, Paul Stastny, on the Carolina side. I thought, Carolina for like the first 3-4 periods, really outshot Florida. But you saw Florida closing the gap. And Freddie Anderson, he was absolutely incredible in that 4th overtime. And Bobrovsky, I mean, he collapsed at the end as well. But both, you and I were saying before the show, this wasn't like a 4 overtime game where there weren't scoring chances. I thought both goalies made save after save and were fantastic. So, I mean, you weren't falling asleep, even if the players did appear pretty fatigued towards that in that 4th overtime.
Well, for sure. And how sometimes you'll get these long triple OT games where not a lot is happening and there's hardly any scoring chances, and people start saying, well, should we consider having some sort of tie-breaking procedure in the playoffs? Nobody that watched that game last night was saying it. I agree 100%. That was as exciting a marathon game as you'll see in the National Hockey League. I mean, both teams were bringing it, at all times. There were great scoring chances. And both goalies were simply phenomenal, and very, unfair to Freddie Anderson to take an L in that fashion, considering they both put up a full game's worth of shutout minutes plus in the overtime period. And I think they said, 212 minutes they went without scoring? I guess that can't be right.
Yeah, I don't, what are the shots, 60, 50? And at one point in the game, they showed each team over 100 shot attempts. I'm like, man, this is one of the more ridiculous games. And you're right, it was basically a doubleheader. Well, it was a doubleheader plus 1 period. I mean, it's incredible to watch. And, we know Vegas has a lot of Winnipeg and Manitoba guys, but shout out to Seth Jarvis playing here. I thought he had a lot of chances. He's looking pretty good. He did score the opening goal of the game. But there are some, Winnipeg, you're a Winnipeg guy and you're looking for a reason to watch, maybe you want to cheer for Paul Stastny or cheer for against Paul Maurice. But Seth Jarvis is a guy who we haven't talked a lot about, but I thought he looked very strong yesterday as the game, young guy has. So he's got those young legs when it's going in a 4 overtime.
Yeah, and hey, this will be a nice. I saw Tikona Pauly talking about the overturned goal in OT, and Phyllis talking about Maurice. He nearly crashed into the plexiglass on that overturned goal in overtime. There's a why not question of the day for not Autocorp or Waverly and McGillivray. What right call or wrong call to overturn the goal in overtime? I will be honest. And listen, I had money. I needed Carolina to win. I was a benefactor of the fact that was overturned. I was absolutely stunned that goal did not count that night. And it's interesting. Different people have different opinions on it. I don't think it was completely clear, cut, and dry. I just thought that it wasn't enough to overturn it. But the Situation Room obviously saw different, and instead of that game ending relatively early in the first overtime, we had about another 2.5 hours of incredible drama to enjoy before Matthew Tkachuk ended it.
Yeah, I saw a lot of tweets, where the first overtime, give me 4 more periods of this, and by the 4th overtime, no, I want to go to bed. As far as that disallowed goal, he kind of the Florida player got in behind the Carolina defender and maybe was nudged in a little by body position into Freddie Anderson. I guess I'm kind of surprised about that one. Us that they did overturn it, but you never know with these guys. I don't think it was an obvious push like we've seen. But I don't know.
I was just surprised. I just didn't think maybe that threshold to turn over a playoff game-winning OT winner. as I said, I was pumped when they made the call. I just didn't think that would be the case. And just to show you, this is why I think there's people on other sides. Russ Lowen, wrong call. Waiters, 100% the correct call. Donnie Boy, right call. T. Conopoli, wrong. No goal. Goal. Basically 50-50 right now on that. So pretty much tells you all you need to know. That is a tough job and a very tough call to be made. And if you thought that the Panthers got hosed, well, they had to work a little, not a little, a lot more to get the win, but they ended up getting the win. So there you have it. 4 OTs. We'll talk with Ken about that a little bit later on, see what he had to say about it. Other huge news in the NHL today, though, Reem. Kyle Dubas is out as the GM of the Maple Leafs. A lot was made of his season-ending press conference where he had said he needed to talk to his family and wasn't sure that, it was Toronto or nowhere, apparently, allegedly, earlier this week. A lot of people said, it didn't seem like his heart was in it. I'll be honest, I don't know, maybe I'm cynical. I thought that was a little bit of negotiating through the media, considering he knew that he had a contract that was up at the end of the year, but maybe it was taken in a little bit of a different way by Leafs brass and Brendan Shanahan, because they put out the release today, and it was quite clear that as much as they are parting ways, they're not renewing his contract, and Kyle Dubas will be a free agent at the end of the month. There are openings in Calgary. There are openings in Pittsburgh right now for a general manager. I imagine he will be in demand. Be interesting to see if he sticks to his guns to say that it was Toronto or nothing, or whether he finds himself a job quite quickly now that he's on the market.
Yeah, I think it's maybe easy to say Toronto or nothing when you're negotiating, but what a time to release this news, Huss. Friday of a long weekend.
A long weekend, yeah.
And the press conference will be at 2:30 in about an hour and 15 minutes. And I mean, I guess it's surprising in the sense that, they've had such a good team in the regular season, winning up there with divisions, so much regular season success. However, they haven't had the playoff success, finally winning a round. And you look at some of the moves, that he got the job and signed that John Tavares contract, which now they're really trying to get out of. And you know what? The reluctant.
Nothing's as bad as the Matt Murray trade, though.
Well, and look, the goaltending was an issue, and yeah, their goaltending solution this year was trade for Matt Murray, which didn't work out, and that Samsonov was all right. I guess, look, they're looking to go in a different direction, and there's some tweets and reports now that there's a bit of a power struggle with him and Brendan Shanahan, and they probably felt, hey, we can find someone else. So kind of, when you're here, Huss, and the GM's had the job for 13 years, a GM who's, how many consecutive playoff appearances and gets in the second round, gets fired. I think they agreed to part ways, to use the official term. His contract expires at the end of the month, or end of next month. I guess it does catch you off guard there.
Yeah, well, listen, I think a lot of people expected that they would continue on. It sounded like there was, again, believe what you want. I mean, many of the people that are pretty tied in said that they thought that Dubas deserved to come back and would be getting another chance to do it. I'm really not sure how much what he had to say earlier in the week after the Leafs were eliminated had to do with his eventual pink slip or not getting renewed. And it's funny. Listen, I knew that this would be a hot topic on the program. As it relates to Kevin Cheveldayoff here in Winnipeg, and certainly the very loud anti-Chevy people are in the chat right now, saying that, Chevy's a lifer. I'll say this about Cheveldayoff. It's very clear that the people that run this hockey club, namely Mark Chipman, believe in Kevin Cheveldayoff and think that he is the guy that can, steer this ship going forward. And I'll say this, I mean, obviously there are pros and cons to everybody. And, you could make arguments of some of the things that Cheveldayoff has done very well, other things that haven't worked out that need improvement. The one thing I'll say is that I do believe that, making a big move right now, general manager, considering all the things on the plate, I'm not sure it would benefit the Winnipeg Jets. Kevin Cheveldayoff has been backed into a corner on a number of occasions and has come out looking pretty good with these deals. So, some people still have confidence in him. Some of the fans, certainly the organization, obviously does. But when you fall short of your goals, you're never going to please everyone right now. But we can. I guess people can wish things, we can talk about it, but it seems like it's a little bit of a waste of breath right now because it was pretty clear at the end of the season that Kevin Cheveldayoff will be back and he will be the steward for this hockey club to get through a very interesting offseason with a number of moves expected to be made at some point, as we've been discussing for the last few days since the season ended.
Yeah, and Toronto, they're in a similar situation with Matthews. He's got 1 year remaining, William Nylander as well. And Martin Tavares with the 2. So, the Jets, it's funny how similar these teams are with their core 4. I think that's a big term here of the last couple weeks. Toronto's got theirs with 2 guys, on the final year, and the Jets have a similar situation with, 4 of the top 8 names on the Athletic trade board, which we had so much fun talking about since Monday. Thank you, Michael Russo and Eric Duhacek for putting that one out. So, I think Toronto, interesting team. I don't know who's going to step in as GM. And I guess the other question is who's going to be coach, because Sheldon Keefe was Kyle Dubas' guy. And I don't have any inside info, but I would think that the next GM will want to pick their own head coach. That's usually what happens, especially those two were so tied together from their days in junior.
Yeah, and there's already been rumblings from some people in the know to keep an eye out for the Ottawa Senators when it comes to the services of Kyle Dubas. Now, I'm sure a lot of that will have to do with what happens with the new ownership group. And again, this is Snoop's a big Dubas guy. Yeah. So that's the thing. Anyways, we'll talk about this and all those other stories with Ken Wiebe when he joins us a little later on. We have to get to this story, though. Shout out to Dave Manuk. I see Dave. By the way, if you missed it after our show yesterday, excellent season review for the Manitoba Moose Show with Dave, Fink, Goose, as well as a number of guests. If you missed that, you can check that over on the Illegal Curve site. But Dave, with his Illegal Curve morning papers today, had a piece from a German paper about Leon Gawanka, who, of course, starred for the Manitoba Moose this year, scored 20 goals, had been with the organization for the last few years, never got a call-up, never got a chance in the National Hockey League. And obviously, it was quite frustrating. But as frustrating as it was for Gawanka, who said that, he's out and obviously signed that contract with Mannheim, let's just say that I'm sure a few things had been lost in the interpretation from German to English, because the headline says, Gawanka scolds NHL team, quote, I ripped my ass open. National defender Leon Gawanka made the leap to North America a few years ago. He returns for the new season and criticizes ex-club Winnipeg Jets in clear words. Now, I will say this. I'm sure that this is a little bit of lost in translation when he says, quote, I ripped my ass open, because we know people from this organization don't disclose injuries, Reem, even after the season.
Yeah, there's other stuff in that article.
It's a lower body injury, Leon. Come on, get with the program.
There was a couple lines in that article where he expressed frustration that he worked his ass off for the organization and he felt like he didn't get rewarded. He saw, didn't play any NHL games. I know Dave in the comments there said he thought, they could have thrown him a bone and let him play the last game against the Avalanche. And Gawanka also said, he sees the other guys ahead of him getting called up and he thought he deserved an opportunity ahead of those guys. You like seeing that, the fire from those guys. It is important to note that, he was put on waivers and nobody picked him up, but I think that's a bit tougher during regular season. So it sounds like, he did sign with Germany, but it sounds like he would welcome going back to North America, just based on the translation of this article, if there was a trade, because the Jets have his rights for till he's 27, I think it is.
Yeah, and you know what? And listen, this is something that happens when you've got a lot of talented young guys that don't have an opportunity to come in and even get a chance to show what they can do. And Listen, I'm not sure that the Winnipeg Jets organization thinks that Leon Gavanka is an NHL player. And I certainly think that, when given the opportunity to call other guys up, Ville Heinola was ahead of him. Declan Chisholm was ahead of him, despite the numbers that he put up in the Manitoba Moose. And, sometimes, listen, all the time, there are guys that, are in one situation in the American Hockey League that, unfortunately for them, they're a little far down the pecking order. And, it does get to them. Now, this article obviously speaks to the fact that he's done with this organization, and as I said, as much as the headline was a bit of a jaw dropper, I'm not sure this is that surprising. After playing here for a long time, doing quite well in the American League and not getting that opportunity, he's looking for a chance to do it elsewhere, whether it be Germany, whether it be somewhere else in the National Hockey League. If there is a trade made, I guess we will see. But we certainly had to get that into the program, considering the very, very interesting headline from the piece over from the Illegal Curve morning papers from our pal Dave Minuk. All right, we'll get to much more of the hockey talk. Winnipeg Jets, the Dubas situation, last night's OT, tonight's game 1 between Dallas and Vegas, as well as tonight's Game 5 between the Jets and the Seattle Thunderbirds. We'll do that with Kenny Wiebe a little bit later on. But we're going to start talking some Bombers coming up right away. But before we do that, don't forget, folks, tonight is the night, opening day at the ballpark. 6:30 start for the Winnipeg Goldeyes. They're at home all weekend long, and the weather is looking absolutely gorgeous. High at 20 today, 25 tomorrow, 22 Sunday, 29 Monday. This is like midsummer type temperatures to start off the season. I'm going to be heading down there tonight and make a plan to get out to the ballpark and take advantage of this gorgeous weather. If you are in town tonight, you can get tickets online at goldeyes.com. Our friends at Modern Man Barber Shops have 8 locations now in Winnipeg as they continue to grow, including the newest locations on Pembina Highway or Plessis Road. I got a cut there a couple weeks ago at the grand opening of the Pembina location. Great time there. Modern Man Barbershops offer a variety of grooming services for men. Haircuts, beard shaping, shaves, color services, and more. Find out more or book your look at modernmanbarber.com at the location of your choice. You can follow them on Instagram at Modern Man Barbershops. And with the summer type weather, maybe now is time to take the plunge with Aquatech. Visit aqua-tech.ca to design your own custom pool. Their team can provide on-the-spot pricing from designers, as well as financing options that suit you. And in addition to the pool, whole home renovations start with Aquatech. With thousands of renos as their foundation, let Aquatech upgrade any space in your home. Aquatech's ready to make those reno dreams a reality. Learn more about design, pricing, and financing options at aqua-tech.ca. May-long weekend's finally here. Do you have your batteries, folks? If you got a motorcycle, you're going to want to be getting that on the road. Manitoba Battery has the best batteries, whatever fit you need, at the best price. If you got some lawn work coming up, you need that long tractor battery, got a great sale right now on a 280 cranking amp battery for $42 when you return your core. That same battery's $30 more at the big box stores. And any purchase over $60, Manitoba Battery will deliver it to you for free. Find out more at manitobabattery.com or pop down and see Donnie and his great staff at 1026 Logan Avenue. And as we get ready to talk Bombers with Bomber, it won't be long till we're back at IG Field enjoying a little Canadian club and watching the blue and gold. Of course, Canadian Club, Canada's favorite Canadian whiskey. Also, the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. See you at the Rum Hut on June 2nd for that first game. And in the meantime, pick up some CC and Ginger, now available in 473 milliliter cans at Manitoba liquor marts and beer vendors, just in time for the long weekend. All right, let's get the latest on Winnipeg Blue Bomber camp with the Bomber himself, Darrin Bauming of Bonfire Sports. DB, what's good, man? How are you?
Hustler, I'm great, man. How are things on your end?
Well, I'm in a great mood. As I said, I stayed out way too late last night, watching 4 overtimes of it, ending in a disappointing fashion. But I was pretty much in long weekend mode already. We got the PGA Championship going on right now. Looking forward to the Fish game tonight, and probably pop by and maybe check out some of training camp this weekend. Part of it, we've talked about this all week. I mean, it's a very unique training camp, and I'm sure you're feeling that every day when you're there. I mean, not a bunch of huge storylines right now, other than the fact that this is a team that is coming back, starting an unfinished business tour. We pretty much know for the most part who is playing, and this team's just preparing, ready to go for week 1 of the regular season. But fill us in on what the vibe and the atmosphere has been like around this team from the first week of camp.
The cynic would say this is the most boring training camp the Blue Bombers have had in a decade plus. But, more of an optimist might say this Blue Bombers camp shows just how stable this organization is, just how good this roster is. There aren't a lot of training camp battles. Obviously, the team signing Sergio Castillo right before camp, bringing in a veteran, a proven guy, a Grey Cup champ, who I think should have been maybe the 2019 Grey Cup most outstanding player, going 5 for 5 in that crazy swirling wind in Calgary in their win over the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And, everywhere else, they're pretty locked up. I remember, just a season or two ago, there was like nearly 3 dozen defensive backs fighting for a couple spots. Well, now it's Evan Holm returning, Demario Houston returning for another season, and Jamal Parker returning for another season. Those guys are all fighting it out for a starting DB spot. Linebacker is solid. Defensive line is solid. The Canadian talent is solid. Receiver maybe a little bit thin with, some guys being nicked up, as is normal in training camp. But Hustler, you look across the CFL at the kind of dire quarterback situation in, I would say, 7 of the other 8 markets outside of Winnipeg. And then you look at Drew Brown, who was running things with the first team offense at Bombers camp today. I'm sure we'll touch on Collaros' absence right away. But I think Drew Brown could start on 7 teams in the CFL if you asked him to, and most of those GMs would do it. So that's how deep, rock solid the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are. As far as, fans getting a little bit worried about a guy missing 2, 3, 4 days, Mike O'Shea really, kind of put a stop to that and said, hey, they'll be ready when they're ready. These guys are vets. They don't need the reps. They are really just ensuring that their bodies are in good shape when the regular season rolls around. We got a preseason game in a week, Hustler, so it's almost time for live bullets.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Well, let's talk about the quarterback position. First off, Zach Collaros excused for personal or family reasons right now. What did the coach have to say about that situation?
He reiterated that exact statement. Away for personal reasons. Asked how long it might be. Doesn't know. Doesn't care. And, of course,
he's not fighting for a job.
All responsibility due, right? It is QB1. This is the reigning MOP and, probably the best player pound for pound in the Canadian Football League today. But, similar to Jake Thomas, who arrived at camp late, he spilled the beans today and shared that, he had his second child back home, talking to a lot of guys. This is a veteran team. A lot of them are having babies. Whether it's Collaros having, something like that, good news, bad news, something in the middle, we don't know. We may not know. But that's, like anybody, it's a personal thing. Excused for family reasons. The Blue Bombers clearly comfortable with ensuring that everything back home for, arguably their most important player is okay. There's lots of time for this Blue Bombers offense under OC Buck Pierce to get things clicking, get everybody on the same page. But I'm watching YouTube videos of Zach Collaros in Southern Ontario a month ago, slinging the ball around amongst a handful of
and he was
CFL
right out there
veterans.
for rookie camp too, and they just started off. All those guys
Right.
are there. And listen, I don't think it's a bad thing for Drew Brown to get plenty of work with the ones in case they need him, much like they did in week 1 of the season last year when he came off the bench and won the game.
Right.
And obviously, everyone, Bomber fans, just hope that everything's great with the Collaros family, and hopefully it's a good thing. Sometimes this does happen, and as I said, I have no idea with whether his wife was pregnant or anything like that, but just wishing Collaros and the family well, and we know number 8 will be back. What is interesting about this, and I think maybe partly the thing that you guys have probably been paying attention to the most on a daily basis is the other quarterbacks that have come through rookie camp that have come here. In the past, the Bombers have usually utilized a third quarterback that has primarily been a guy that has done a lot of short yardage rushing, although still had the opportunity to throw the football. Dakota Prukop was that guy last year. He's gone right now. DP, tell us about the other quarterbacks that are in camp, and has anyone sort of stood out amongst the others and maybe started a little bit of separation on the inside track on that job?
Before I talk about the guys here in Bombers camp, I'll share a little secret with the audience. I've heard that Dakota Prukop, when he is done with the USFL, he wants to come back to Winnipeg. This is where he wants to be. So, something to maybe keep in mind looking forward as the, in the Blue Bombers quarterback stable. But it's Tyrell Pigram and it is Josh Jones, and physically two very different quarterbacks, behind Drew Brown and obviously Zach Collaros here in Winnipeg. Pigram, I would say, reminds me a lot of Kevin Glenn. He has that very similar stance in the pocket, probably a lot more mobile and apt to run than, say, a Kevin Glenn. I don't know if they're even a comparable other than just looking at the body makeup, as a quarterback. But I think he's somebody that is incredibly athletic. He kind of makes those Patrick Mahomes style sidearm throws when he's trying to, make some moves in the pocket and that sort of thing. Josh Jones, big body, like tall, big. I don't have his height and weight here, but believe me, it's probably, 6'4", 230, like big quarterback. So it depends which way the Blue Bombers want to go. Is it a smaller quarterback that can, find space and gain yardage in that wedge package? Is it a big body that they want to kind of bruise it in, like they did with Chris Streveler in memorable seasons gone by? Or will Drew Brown run the short yardage package with the Blue Bombers? And that third stringer is more of a developmental. I think what it will come down to, Hustler, it'll come down to who's the smarter quarterback. If you're playing pro football, if you're here in training camp in the Canadian Football League, you have skills. It's thinking the game, especially a quarterback coming to Canada, adjusting to these nuances and differences between the football these American quarterbacks have played their entire lives to this different brand of football here in Canada. It's very different for quarterbacks. So I think it will come down to the one who processes information better, the one who is sharper in looking at defenses and breaking things down, and the one that's good in the room as well. I don't think anybody would be here if they were not a little bit of all of those things. But I think it's those, aside from throwing the football and running the football, that will set quarterbacks apart.
Darrin Bauming of Bonfire Sports getting us up to date on the latest from Winnipeg Blue Bomber training camp here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to check out and subscribe to the Bonfire channel over on YouTube. Darrin, all offseason, whenever we talked about the Bombers, everyone in chat was talking about the kicking position and challenge for Mark Leggio. The Lucha is back. Sergio Castillo, you mentioned, I'm with you. I mean, I think he probably was the real MVP of that Grey Cup win. He's back now. He's going to be the guy. I can't imagine anything that would prevent him from being the Bomber kicker to begin the season. Where does that leave Mark Leggio? And tell us about the battle for the punting job, assuming that Castillo will be the place kicker, and there'll still be a spot for somebody to play special teams in a kicking role, just not field goals and converts.
You're right, Hustler. Mark Leggio and Sergio Castillo, those are the two principals in the punting and kicking game here in Blue Bombers training camp. But there is a third name to mention, an American rookie, Chandler Staten, who's looked really good striking the football on field goals. I haven't seen him punt too much, but I think he's somebody that may be in the mix. Fans are going to want the Grey Cup hero. They're going to want the proven veteran. I think signing Sergio Castillo for almost anything, it was as important to just get a veteran here in camp. Mark Leggio's in his third season. That's good. But to bring in a guy like Sergio Castillo that has been around the block, that knows, how to be a professional and all those sorts of things. And Mark Leggio does as well. But when they had 5, 6, 7 kickers on the roster, you want a good group of guys that have been there and done that in the CFL and in pro football before. Castillo is proven. I'm with you. I think he will win the job. The Blue Bombers, as far as, if they want Castillo to be the place kicker and they want Leggio, the Canadian, to be the punter, they've done that before. They've employed 2 kickers, an American place kicker and a Canadian punter before. They can do that, make some adjustments to the ratio on those special teams. It is a possibility. They just have to tweak the roster a little bit. Chandler Staten, I think, is somebody who has shown enough that he is still here and, has looked good. So maybe he's somebody that will begin the season on the practice roster. We've seen kickers get injured before. We've seen all types of crazy things happen. Maybe he's even a trade piece. You never know in the CFL. It's the crazy football league for a reason. So, again, another position Winnipeg looks to be deep at. They have options. Tough decisions, but good decisions.
How's Leggio handled it? This isn't just a challenge for his job. This is a guy that's come in that has performed in the past better than he has a resume of a Grey Cup champion. And obviously there's a reason why they're bringing him in, considering what happened last year. Not an easy position to be in. What's he had to say and how's he handled it?
Yeah, he's handled it incredibly well. I've seen Mark Leggio mature mentally to a great degree since his rookie season, a couple years ago. He came into the Blue Bombers organization as a draft pick and, was put on the spot to kick and to punt and to handle all the duties. And it was tough, especially in the early going. Of course, he would like a lot of those moments, in important games back. But to a man, I think Mark Leggio is approaching this as professionally as one could hope for. He is, he takes accountability. He doesn't shy away. He has always faced the music. And I think that's maybe something people overlook. Of course, in a game, they're going to be like, okay, if he misses this convert, it's going to be same old, same old. But the reality is, these are young guys like anybody else. You don't think Adam Bighill makes mistakes dropping into coverage? You don't think Willie Jefferson makes mistake, containing the edge? A kicker makes a mistake, it's glaring. It is on the surface, and it is very impactful for making one. So I think the reason the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have stuck with Mark Leggio is they like his approach, they like his attitude, they like his mentality, and they like what he brings on the football field as well. And that's the ability to pretty much do every single job on the field well. Talk to Troy Westwood. He's missed, like so many greats have missed, important kicks. That is the ire of football fans, especially if you lose a game like this most recent Grey Cup.
Yeah,
but
you hear about it.
Of course, you're going to hear about it. But you want a guy that's going to be able to compartmentalize that, put it in the back of his mind, and go out there and be a flippin' pro. You know what I mean? So I think that's why Winnipeg really likes Leggio.
Darrin Bauming with us here, breaking down Blue Bomber training camp. Any other newcomers that, are battling just to be on the roster that have sort of stood out right now? Names that most of our listeners would not have heard about yet, but we might be hearing a lot more comes the season?
So this is always a tough thing, right? Training camps, sometimes you see guys pop and make a big play in practice, and then he's cut 2 days later. So you're like, okay, well, what's that about? I know Bombers fans, I got spies in the online forums and that sort of thing. And they're like, how come nobody's telling us who's standing out? Who are the new guys? Who's pushing in camp? Well, one, there's not a ton of jobs up for grabs. But two, it's hard to identify if a guy is doing something good or bad. We could say, oh, he made a great pass knockdown in practice, or he made a great catch or a great juke move to evade a tackler. But then he goes into the meeting room that we don't see and we don't get feedback on, and he's making mistakes watching the film, breaking down the film. He's not assignment sharp, that sort of thing. So a lot of factors go into whether a guy makes a team or not. We know Mike O'Shea, character, the FIFO acronym fit in, or you know what I mean? All of those things. The off the field is just as important as the on the field when it comes to the makeup of a Winnipeg Blue Bomber in an ideal sense. So you never know. That said, Barrington Wade, wears 54, been playing linebacker, I think is somebody that is really, as a newcomer, made his name known. Evan Holm, started some games in the defensive backfield, returned some kicks. He's had a fantastic camp in his second season now in the CFL. I'll probably say Tavares Harrison at receiver amongst new names. He was a late signing, late last season to the practice roster. I like his. I think he's just got kind of a well-rounded skill set and size combo for the Canadian game. He's interesting as well. There's a ton of running backs. From a late round pick in Jonathan Rosary out of the University of Alberta, to Vance Barnes, who was here in Winnipeg late last season as well. These guys are all pushing for that opportunity. You got to get it done on special teams in order to be a backup as a rookie in the CFL. But those are some of the names I'm watching, Hustler. It's tough. There's a lot of guys out there, but it's not like years past where there's a dozen dudes fighting for a position, and then here's the two that are getting that rotation into the first team reps. So that's my perspective, from the stands at IG Field.
I was on, I should plug today's Lock Shop for CFL fans, because we did get into some of the CFL futures that are on the board over at Coolbet, myself and Dusty. And we had an interesting conversation on the Eastern Division this year. And I think it's going to be wide open, much like it was last year. I don't really see any team sort of pulling around. I'm really high on Ottawa. I think that Bobby Dice is going, I think he's such a great leader of men. That as long as Jeremiah Masoli can stay healthy, I think we're going to see, Ottawa have a big, big turnaround this season. He's pretty keen on Bo Levi Mitchell going in with an Andrew Harris-sized chip on his shoulder into Hamilton right now. And I'll be honest, I am very skeptical as to how Swag Kelly handles being the guy and the starter as the CEO, if you will, of the Toronto Argonauts. When you look at the landscape of the East, who are you high on going into the season, Darrin?
Yeah, you touched on some really salient things, and I tend to agree with you. Montreal's fascinating. You remarry Jason Moss as their new head coach with Cody Fajardo as his quarterback. It didn't work in Saskatchewan. Is Jason Moss, is Cody Fajardo, are they going to take a different approach each individually and collectively to maybe make something happen in Montreal? But they lost a lot of talent. I think they're going to be, at the bottom looking up for most of the season. Hamilton, tons of changes on defense, in particular their defensive backfield. Yeah, Bo's going to have a chip on his shoulder. He's got some weaponry around him. Good offensive system there. Good line play in Hamilton, but I'm not so sure. Toronto, yeah, I think Chad Kelly, Swag Kelly, is going to be the X factor in it all. The Argos employed a lot of different looks on offense. It's almost like they had, a chapter of the playbook for Andrew Harris, and then the rest of the playbook, for when 33 wasn't on the field. I, too, really like the Ottawa Red Blacks. They added some pieces. Sean Burke, their general manager, has had a couple years now to, shape this roster, in the image that he foresees. And, Bobby Dice, a Winnipegger, just a great hire after a long, long time in the Canadian Football League as an assistant coach and a special teams coordinator. I think the team is going to play hard for Bob Dice. And, I think they have all the pieces there. Jeremiah Masoli and Zach Collaros, those are the two quarterbacks out of the entire league that I'm comfortable with if I'm a GM, if I need a starter to win a football game. I don't have much trust really in any of the others because they've just been too streaky through their career. So I look at Ottawa being the strength of the East, Toronto right there with them, Hamilton fighting, and I really see Montreal as a team that's going to be on the outside looking in for most of the season.
Hey, Darrin, just before we go, do we have a schedule for the weekend? There have been many fans out there checking out training camp, and if fans are thinking about getting out there on what should be a beautiful May-long weekend, what are the deets?
let me pull up my calendar here. So they moved practice. It was supposed to be Saturday afternoon. It will now be Saturday morning. So 8:30 tomorrow morning at the outdoor fields just down the street from the stadium. So soccer complex, Subway Soccer South. It's the outdoor fields right next to it. You can't miss it. Big scissor lift up in the air, filming it all for the team. So that's Saturday. And then Sunday, back at IG Field, another 8:30 until 11:30 a.m. Do we have Monday? I'm not even sure if we have a Monday schedule yet, but keep it locked to the Twitter pages, and we'll keep you updated on all of that. But come down to camp, come say hi if you see me. Maybe I'll give you a Bonfire sticker, and we'll talk some football.
Hey, just before we go, I laughed at your tease last night of the big CFL news and all the people's responses to it. But that's a great news for CFL fans on both sides of the border with the streaming information. Just fill people in quickly on what was announced.
Yeah, I had some people saying, that's the big news? Yeah, it's some pretty big news. The Canadian Football League is launching their own streaming platform for people to be able to watch games that are not on TSN. So for Bombers fans, as I teased, it's exciting for them because now they can watch the Bombers-Elks game next week. It was not scheduled to be on TV. Well, now they'll take the Jumbotron feed, so they'll have multiple camera angles from Brickfield at Commonwealth, and they'll overlay the home radio feed. So not the CGOB crew, but the 630 Ched crew. Great play-by-play color duo over there doing the game. But CFL Plus and CFL Preseason Live are the two things that the Canadian Football League launched today. We know CBS Sports Network in the U.S. has the rights to carry the TSN broadcasts in the States, but every other game, whether it is a preseason, a regular season, or a playoff game, will be available either on TSN or on that streaming service. If you're in Canada, you have access to those. If you're international, you have access to those. This is a very long time coming and important move for the Canadian Football League to continue to blossom into the digital age and ensure that no matter where you are on planet Earth, you're going to be able to watch Canadian football live in great broadcast quality.
Great stuff. Just give a quick plug for what you got cooking on over at Bonfire throughout camp.
Bonfiresports.ca. Get over there. You can subscribe to your podcast, your YouTube, all the social media channels. Listen, it's been a tough preseason in the Bonfire lab, okay? We're changing software. Fans are going to be pumped because I'm going to be able to do some things I haven't been able to do before. So stay patient, subscribe. We're going to have content up there soon. Zach Schnitzer, the Schnitz, he's going to join me for Bonfire Midweek this coming Wednesday, live on YouTube and Facebook and everywhere, really, at 7:30 on Wednesday. So bonfiresports.ca, get over there and sub up.
Can't imagine how geeked Zach is with the season right around the corner. Speaking for many, many Bomber fans, cannot wait to get back to the stadium for that preseason game and then get things going on the unfinished business tour. 18 stops before CFL playoffs later on. Darrin, have an awesome long weekend. We'll try and bump into you down at the stadium.
Appreciate it, Huss. Have a great one, everybody.
Good stuff. There is Darrin Bauming, at Darrin Bauming on Twitter. And, of course, Bonfire Sports is where you want to get all of Darrin's content. All right, Ken Wieb's coming up in just a couple minutes. We got some beautiful weather. It's perfect for barbecuing, folks. And if you're looking for delicious Vita Market grass-fed bison and beef steaks, you know where to get it. Vita Health Fresh Market, home of great prices on natural and organic supplements, beauty products, and groceries. And perfect thing to help you digest all that red meat is Health First Prime Zyme digestive enzymes. They're going to help you. Health First Prime Zyme is going to help you break down proteins, carbohydrates, fats, lactose, and reduce digestive discomfort so you can enjoy all that delicious food you are cooking. Pop down and see them at any of their 7 Winnipeg locations. And if you can't make it down to one of their stores, you can visit their website at myvita.ca to buy online with local delivery options. A lot of work happening on the weekend. If you need a new fence or an overhead door, save yourself the time and just give Wallace & Wallace a call. The experts in fencing and overhead doors, serving residential and commercial customers since 1946. Pretty much every kind of fence, they've got it, including the vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood fences. And of course, it's time to replace your garage door, they are the Clopay dealer in Manitoba with Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors. 204-452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will arrange a time to come out and give you a free estimate. Find them online at wallacefences.com or visit them in person at their showroom on Lawson Road off of Kenniston. How's the closet looking as we get into spring and summer, fellas? If you need to up your menswear game, you need to pop by and see Andrew, Alex, and the gang at F Apparel. Custom suits beginning at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. A 15% discount for wedding parties and a free custom shirt and tie for 2023 high school grads with the purchase of a new suit. Find out more in person at 190 Smith Street or check them out online or make an appointment at EPHapparel.com. And hey, is there anything that goes better with a long weekend and the beautiful temperatures we've got coming in the sunshine than a DQ blizzard? I think not. Head on down to our pals Nick and Nikki and the Nick and Nikki DQ group for the taste of summer right now with brand new blizzard flavors launching as we speak. 4 locations to get your DQ on: DQ Northgate, DQ Polo Park, DQ St. Anne's, and DQ Niverville. And you can also hit them up like T. Conopoli did on Instagram at DQ Manitoba for a blizzard or ice cream cake for your next event. All right, great stuff with Darrin. We're going to get Ken Wiebe on in just a few minutes, but looking at the PGA Championship, no surprise that Scotty Scheffler is at the top of the leaderboard. Jon Rahm had that miserable 6 over par opening round. Scotty Scheffler finished at 3. 2 early birdies has him in the lead at 5 under par. But how about Canadian Corey Connors? He's 2 under for his round after 4 holes. And he is tied with Bryson DeChambeau, just 1 shot back of the leader, Scotty Scheffler. Vic Hovland, 3 under par right now, and Keegan Bradley in 5th at 2 under par. But we'll see how these guys handle this afternoon. It looks ugly there right now in Rochester. The wind is blowing big time. The guys that have the morning afternoon draws in a pretty tough situation. So we'll see if maybe these guys come back to the pack a little bit. Scheffler seems to have his A game right now, though, as does Canadian Corey Connors. All right, well, the wake-up shirt is on, ready for the weekend. Let's just get right to it. Ken Wiebe, Kenny Insider today, hopefully, because there's a lot happening in and around the league. First off, shout out to you and Rennie for a heck of a good time earlier this week. What a turnout. Such great support for you guys and all of us in the digital space. The pizza was amazing. The beer was awesome. The company was great. A grand slam of an event for you and your partner.
Yeah, thanks, Huss. Thanks for being there, and thanks for the kind words. It was just an awesome night of revelry and the occasional spirited debate, as I know that you were involved in several of those also. A lot of passionate folks, a lot of passionate fans over at TCB. Awesome job by the folks at Trans-Canada Brewing Company for their, having the great, the venue and, the food and the beverages were fantastic. Really loved it. It was great to have a nice, it was a pretty cool collection, Huss. I know you were talking about it earlier in the week with the guys that were attending, but man, Huss, I mean, that's the first time that big a collection has probably been together, honestly, since the announcement of the Jets coming back, don't you think? I mean, there may have been something since that time, but, it was just awesome to see, folks from all the various companies and various platforms. And I think, from the feedback that I've been getting, folks just really love the opportunity to interact with a lot of those folks. And yeah, it was just fun. It was a fun season, and this full well. We've seen so much growth on this platform in the last couple of years. It's hard to believe this was season 3 for us. I know you guys have been at it for a very long time and are enjoying it as well. And yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be possible without the sponsorship support, and also from the great viewers and listeners and the folks that are just infused with that passion that makes this space such a fun place and makes people feel like they're part of a community, Huss. And I know you feel the same way, that the ability to be part of building that community kind of from the ground floor has been probably one of the most enjoyable and liberating parts of the entire journey.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I see Candace is here, and it was great to see Candace and Tristan Rivers. We had a great chat about some of the musical soundtracks for our shows put together by Tristan, and of course the videos with Candace. The one thing that was missing, though, that I still can't believe never came out, was the headband.
Oh my God, this is vintage. He had it in his pocket, I think. He did get a not so subtle reminder during the course of the day, but Huss, I mean, you saw it. The handshake line is a lot of people were joking.
I can't believe it wasn't on to begin the event.
No,
hello, welcome.
I know.
The headband.
I know.
That's Rennie.
I know. Yes, that was. Let's file that under the technical difficulties part of the brand, Huss. We definitely had the headband there. I know you know this, but so many folks were pumped to see folks like Lou Ferlin, and Frankie and the boys from Raw. It was just a fun gathering. But you're right. I mean, the headband should have been out from the beginning. But let's just say this was our first. Let's hope it was the first of many, and we'll try to get that corrected for the year ender number 2. Hopefully exactly. In 2024.
The year ender bender, and what it was. I'm just looking in the chat. I mean, so many of the people that are here with us today were at that event. And some people I met for the first time, like all caps Kyle, all caps Kyle, who it was Kyle, and then I realized, oh yeah, that's all caps Kyle from the chat. So anyways, it was great to hook up with everyone. Kudos to you, the gang over at TCB, for a heck of a great night. How about that game last night?
Oh man, Huss,
OTs. And how about Maurice on the bench? Like double OT. There was so many vintage Maurice moments. Man, is he having a fun time right now? I mean, still very intense, but everything's coming up Pomo right now, and it did again last night on the stick of Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah, Huss, it was vintage. The F-bombs per 60. There is nobody running higher analytics in these playoffs than Paul Maurice with the F-bombs per 60. Many of them directed in the men wearing striped shirts. Intensity is there. The fist pumps and the reactions with Jamie Compon and Sylvain Lefebvre have become kind of the lore of legend after victories for that franchise. I was afraid he was going to have an aneurysm when that goal was overturned in the first OT.
I
will also say this: had the Hurricanes scored in the the second? I'm like the players. Ryan Lomberg says it best after the game to reporters in Raleigh. We didn't know what overtime by the end, we weren't sure what number of overtime it was. We were just having a great time. But had they scored on that hooking penalty to Verhaeghe, Paul would. I don't think he could have. I don't think he would have had enough fingers to point to the number of power plays and the symbol and all of those things.
I think he would have just used one digit for his signatures, and it's not the index finger. If you know what I'm saying.
Us, it's just vintage Paul. He's just having so much. And I wrote about this in my Weeb's World column on Sunday at sportsnet.ca. For folks, there were obviously a lot of questions at the end of his departure, and resigning is such a rare thing in the National Hockey League, Huss. But when I wrote about this, if you look at Paul now compared to at the end of his tenure with the Jets, the juice is back, the joy level. We joke about the joy level dating back to Claude Noel's days as the first head coach of the 2.0 version, but Paul's joy level is back at a place where it was when he started. And Huss, if we were listening to the press conference yesterday, it's funny in some ways to people who know and followed him here in Winnipeg. This game goes four overtimes and nearly a fifth. And players are talking about the hard training camp. This is year one of Paul Maurice's first full season after the interim tag was removed. Even though he laid the groundwork after taking over. That first training camp is something they're talking about now in Florida after year one.
It's a man's camp.
Well, all joking aside, but this is a team that I know there's been a lot of debate about everything, but I mean, Paul is rejuvenated and he's having a good time and he's doing a good job. I mean, there's no other way to put this. I understand there are some folks that are saying, yes, well, if Pittsburgh had done this and beaten Chicago, we wouldn't be talking about Paul Maurice right now. Some people think we'd be talking about Paul Maurice not being the head coach of the Florida Panthers. I don't think that's accurate, but this season looks an awful lot different from 9th place in the East versus the 8th seed now having racked up 9 wins, the same number of wins that the same head coach had during the 2018 run to the Western Conference Final. But what I can tell you, Hassan, and this is the thing that stands out most to me, A, from seeing him when he came back to Winnipeg in December, B, being in Florida in March, and C, seeing him behind the bench now. He's at a different place than he was at the end. And, you know, we've spent a lot of this last week, Hassan, I know the news of the day is about Kyle Dubas. Kyle Dubas sounded a lot like Paul Maurice did at the end of Paul Maurice's tenure in Winnipeg. Sounded like a guy that needed a break, and sounded like a guy who, you know, I wouldn't say it's equal in terms of what the, you know, passion level being reduced, but Paul's ability to get away from the sport that he has loved since, you know, the time he was a young toddler, but having been in the NHL basically from 28 years old until now at I think 56 or 54. He needed to get away, and he did get away. He didn't watch hockey for 3 to 6 months. He was, you know, out recalibrating was the word Dubas used. I know, having spoken to him, Paul did the same sorts of things. He got away from the sport and then remembered how much he actually loved the sport. And now you're seeing sort of the fruits of that labor of him being back behind the Panthers bench. And hey, I get it. There's some Jets fans that aren't okay with that. But this is a guy who needed a break. He got a break. He has been rejuvenated by the break, and he's having a whole lot of fun. And yeah, it's a whole lot more fun when you win game 1 that goes deep into the night, where I filed my column for sportsnet.ca at 1:27 a.m. Yeah, I get it, but it's an interesting storyline for sure. And man, I mean, that's a team that's fun to watch. They're doing a lot of the things that Paul wished the Jets were able to do in the years after 2019, that they just never got back to that same sort of team that had that level of commitment and structure and determination and tenacity. And hey, there is one similarity, Huss, that we're seeing, and that's elite level goaltending from a guy who the narrative is changing the narrative on the fly, right? So what have you and I been talking about, and you and everyone else about the show, about the importance of having a true number 1 goalie. And that goalie happens to make $10 million. And suddenly this week, we're not talking about tandems. We're talking about the importance of having a bona fide number 1. It doesn't matter that bona fide number 1 and former Vezina Trophy winner lost the job down the stretch. Now he has the job, and he has 13.4 goal saves above expected, according to Money Puck, in the playoffs, and was probably the biggest reason that game was played deep into the night.
Well, I couldn't agree. Remo and I were touching on this at the beginning of the show, but I mean, a lot of times when you'll get that 3 or 4 overtime game, there's a lot of people speaking afterwards about it going, you got to figure out a way to break these ties or do something before, because the games often suck. I mean, they get down to, you know, basically just getting the puck out, getting it away from your net without any real offense. Completely opposite last night. I mean, those goalies stood on their head for the better part of just about 80 minutes in overtime. Both of the teams were relentless in their pursuit of getting that winning goal. I mean, to me, for a marathon game, like the 6th longest ever, that was so much better than often some of the slog that we get in deep overtimes. And credit to both of those teams. Whether they would have been able to do that if it was game 4 or 5 of the series as opposed to game 1, I'm not sure. And here's the other thing, Ken. Be very interesting to see how this affects both teams for game number 2 in a game that Carolina really is going to feel like they have to have after playing as much as they did with nothing to show for it last night.
Yeah, bang on, Huss. All of those things, and you know, both netminders spectacular. Freddie Anderson also great, but Huss, these are goalies. I think Anderson is 35, and Bob is also in his 30s. So, what is the physical toll on both of those men? Who, you know, let's face it, Anderson is a guy whose body has broken down and had various ailments. That's why they have, you know, they had to use Antti-Ranta coming out of the gate here, starting the first stretch of games for Carolina. And for Bobrovsky, I mean, Elliot Friedman, my colleague's been talking about it all, you know, for the whole playoffs. This is a guy who really benefited. There were 2 two-day breaks in the series with the Toronto Maple Leafs, And that's part of the reason he channeled his inner Marc-Andre Fleury circa 2018 in that series against the Leafs, knocking them out in 5. So, and there's also the toll on the players, man. Brandon Montour played almost an hour of the game, Huss. He had a near 3-minute shift where he had 2 scoring chances and almost ended the game.
I thought he was going to barf on the bench there afterwards. Like they had
it was a classic.
That
was so
probably
good.
Close.
But Hassan, you're so right about the game itself. Like this wasn't a 0-4 or 1-4 situation where there's no forecheck and people just clogged up the neutral zone and said, hey, you're not going to penetrate this defensive area. They were both going at it. Anton Lundell hits the post on one side. Seth Jarvis, the Winnipegger, who was spectacular in the game, he thought it was going bar down, and it's bar out in a game where he was excellent in terms of his performance in the game. I thought he was all over the map, really involved. But there was tons of great saves. That pad stop that Bobrovsky made on Natchez on the breakaway. Natchez thought he's just going to tuck it on the forehand. No, sir, you are not. Jarvis on the one-timer. Bob pushes across. It's stuck underneath his skate and the pad. Just spectacular goaltending. And I love the way both teams played. And hey, it's easy to say, oh, it's only one game and all that stuff, Huss, but yes, that both teams emptied the proverbial tank, and they're both very thankful it's not an afternoon game for game 2 because that would be absolutely insane. We know, let's see what happens in the West game 1 because they are playing an afternoon game on Sunday in Las Vegas. So I love the game itself, but Huss, here's the other part. It was such a well-played game, but also a reminder that mistakes happen to elite players. Look no further than the game winner. Brent Burns and Jacob Slavin, the top pairing, they were awesome in the game. Burns makes a smart reverse along the boards. Slavin picks it up, rims it around the boards. Is it a turnover? Because Sam Bennett knocked it down, it's hard to say. It was last on the stick of Slavin, and then it was on the stick of Bennett, then it was on the stick of Tkachuk, then it was bar down. But it's so funny, Hassan. Going into the series, we're talking about Jacob Slavin as a Conn Smythe legit candidate, and he is one. And the narrative the day before the series was, does Jacob Slavin ever even make a mistake? This isn't really even a full mistake, but it ends up looking like one because he's the last guy to touch it. So it's just a reminder that elite players, like I said, I have a hard time calling it a mistake because I think he made the right play. It just still ended up in the back of their net. So just a fun start to a really fun series. And man, those two teams just absolutely. And Radko Gudas, 12 hits in the game, like running around the old mountain man, the big beard was just hammering people. You saw skilled players making a ton of plays. Like Barkov had something, almost 60 draws that he took, and Stahl was just behind him. It was just a fun game all around. And yeah, it's fun. This is a great time of year. And I think this is also why there has been that empty feeling for many of the Jets fans we interact with mostly on a daily basis almost, because they felt like they had when are they going to get back to that stage, right? I mean, I think that's a big question mark kind of going into this off season here, and they're well within their right to feel that way because a lot of the even teams that went further than them, are making sweeping changes, and setting up what the Jets now suddenly have some competition for being the most fascinating offseason team after what happened today in the center of the universe.
Well, let's get to that. What are you hearing about this? Like, his comments were emotional earlier in the week, and he was sort of non-committal that he even wanted to do it. I'll be honest, and maybe I'm a little more cynical. I took that as kind of negotiating, maybe a little bit of a negotiating ploy. Many others didn't. But I do wonder how those comments maybe push Brendan Shanahan to essentially make the decision for him that if it's happening, it ain't going to be with the blue and white.
Yeah, super interesting. I spent most of the morning, listening to Jeff Merrick and trying to, do a lot of research on the topic and then digging in on the Eastern Conference series too with what was said today. It's interesting. And, Shanahan is speaking as we speak here. Here's what Shanahan just said on the podium. Shanahan suggested Dubas not talk to media Monday and wait until a deal was done, but Dubas wanted to. Shanahan says he told Dubas after the trade deadline he wanted to sign him to an extension. So it's very interesting, Huss, and we talk about this all the time. Like the press release made it sound like it was a firing, right? But it's still kind of disguised as mutually decided to part ways. I'd like more clarity. I'd like more clarity on that.
I didn't take it as that. I mean, I thought it was like, we're not renewing this guy. He's gone. And I'm just seeing Mike Stevens saying, Shanahan says there was a dramatic shift in his thinking after Dubas spoke at Media Day.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, yeah.
If it was negotiating, it didn't go very well for Mr. Dubas.
I don't think Huss, I mean, understand. I mean, my colleague Nick Kiprios felt the same way as you did. I didn't see that as a negotiating ploy, because I would say the opposite, Huss. If he wanted to be negotiating, he should have been saying, I'm open to other opportunities, rather than saying it's Toronto or bust for me. I think it was an anti-negotiating ploy, to be honest, unless he was trying to raise a salary in Toronto, which is also, completely well within the realm of possibility, and one of the theories being floated. Maybe Brendan Shanahan didn't like the price tag. And the other part here too that we can't dismiss, and it would be something that won't be stated publicly by the person who could be in the opposite end of the power struggle, is that what if this was a you or me situation, Kyle Dubas? And I'm not saying that it is. I don't have any proof of that. But Huss, what I do know is that over the years, Kyle Dubas was always the guy sitting beside Brendan Shanahan for those emotional reactions in the press box. And I'll tell you right now, in these playoffs, I saw Jason Spezza sitting beside Kyle Dubas a lot, and I did not see Brendan Shanahan, and I did not see them sitting at the podium together like they've done so many times. And Kyle can say whatever he wants and say he doesn't need to have cover from Brendan Shanahan, which is true. If they were on a united front, I have a hard time believing they would not be sitting at that same table together like they have so many other times. So, I mean, now the next question is, A, who takes over the Leafs? And B, does Dubas reconsider his position that was stated at the podium, saying that it was either Toronto or nothing? Now, all of a sudden, when you've been fired, or essentially been fired, now maybe you open up the door. And Huss, we talk about the spice levels all the time. I mean, if you're Ottawa and if you want to rekindle the Battle of Ontario, I have to wonder if Kyle Dubas might be on line one as soon as things are made official with the ownership group.
A few people saying, kind of keep an eye on Kyle Dubas in Ottawa. I mean, Pierre Dorion is still the guy there. I'm not sure that would mean he move upstairs or he gets a pink slip. But I'm not sure whether anything would happen until they get that new ownership in. And listen, time is of the essence. The big question as it relates to Toronto is, I mean, does this change? Does this change Austin Matthews' thinking? I mean, I kind of took a lot of the things that he was saying about wanting to be there going forward, kind of like, let's keep this moving forward with this group. And obviously, they got to make those decisions before the 1st of July, because if they're going to move on any of those players, the full no moves kick in at that point. And they don't have a lot of time to figure that out or make those moves if they want to do that.
Well, Hassan, and here's the other part for me. We were deciphering every word that Kyle Dubas said, Huss, but as it relates to the market we work in, man, the words that Kyle Dubas said that would have resonated here, I know what it did with you and I'm sure it did with Kevin Cheveldayoff. That sounded like we've talked about how this has to go for the Jets in order to avoid a rebuild. Well, you need to find a team in a similar situation to yourself that has star players available on the market that are looking to change the mix. And to me, when I heard Kyle Dubas, I'm like, whoa, well, there's a trade partner for Kevin Cheveldayoff. Now, I don't pretend to know if it was which one of those core four, and I don't think it would have been Austin Matthews or John Tavares, but you certainly had to leave the door open for a Mitch Marner, who's under contract for 2 years, or William Nylander, who could have been a guy that the Jets might have thought about making one of their long-term plans around. And, I understand that center's not his natural position. Both those guys have played center before. And until a guy like Brad Lambert or one of the other centers coming up in the system were ready, those would have been guys that would have been considered. Huss. Now, I don't pretend to know which way Kyle Dubas would have asked us, but it's natural to wonder. I mean, we talked about the evolution of Kyle Dubas. The one position he never addressed was goal, and the team is owned by the same people that own the Raptors. So if you're looking to make one of those Kyle Dubas, Messiah Jiri kind of moves, what if they had tried to address their goaltending situation by trying to get, one of the potential best goalies available on the market if he gets to market. So does that go on hold now? Does it go out the window? Was it never a possibility? I don't know. It could depend on who takes over and how they value the goaltender position. Let's just put that on the back burner. But I definitely see the Leafs as a potential fit with the Jets in terms of, the Leafs are trying to win the cup in the next year or two, Huss. And the Jets have some players that can help put a team over the top in a pursuit of a championship. And the other part of this too, I know, Huss, I know you didn't ask me, but you will. So to me, watching that game last night, could you not envision Mark Scheifele? What was Carolina missing in that game last night? A natural goal scorer. Well, the Jets just so happen to have a guy who just put up 42 tucks that's going to be available in trade too. Now, it doesn't fit with the Carolina mantra of not really wanting to pay for a rental, but they also might see Mark Scheifele as a guy that they could view as a longer term. They have a very good culture there. Mark could be a guy that just
wants Mark Scheifele.
Oh, I think that Rod Brindamore would think that he could turn Mark Scheifele into the player that Paul Maurice wanted to turn Mark Scheifele into, and Rick Bowness wanted to turn into. And because of the other pieces that they have, I think they would definitely view it as worth the risk, if you want to even call it a risk, on that culture side, Gus, which I know is what you're referring to. So,
but also the way that he plays. I mean, that is one of the most tenacious, relentless teams
for sure.
And everybody is all in on doing all those things. And I mean, listen, Scheif's done a lot of great things here, and certainly goal scoring at the top of that list. There's a number of the boxes that most of the Carolina Hurricanes check off that, I hate to say it, he doesn't have that club in his bag.
No, fair, Huss, but I would also counter by saying that sometimes when you go into a situation like that, Mark would have no choice but to dig in on that. So that's why I think that it may be something they would be interested in trying. And hey, Max Pacioretty isn't exactly known as a defensive stalwart, and his biggest club in his bag was goal scoring. Obviously he's had leadership qualities as a former captain and all those things also. But I mean, Mark has a lot of skill, and if you're in that environment, I just look at Rod Brindamore and think, here's the thing. Steve Yzerman was Mark Scheifele's favorite player. Mark wants to get paid. There's no doubt about that. That's evident. But I think a guy like Rod Brindamore might be able to, he's been able to, dig in with a lot of different players, and some of whom we didn't think were going to be defensive specialists. And this is not to say that Mark has to be a Selke level defender, but he has shown some qualities on those fronts in terms of being better defensively than he has been. There definitely have been lapses, and those can't happen in the Carolina system. But I just have to wonder, Huss, obviously too, the injuries are obviously a factor there with Svechnikov. He's their best player. So, okay, Aho, you could say Aho is their best two-way player, but their best goal scorer is Svechnikov, and he's not available. Pacioretty was supposed to help on that front. He's not there either. Teravainen back in the lineup helped them, but he looked like a guy who'd missed a lot of time, missed almost an entire series last night for me. So, is it a perfect fit, Huss? No, not necessarily, but he would be someone that you could see them being on the radar. They obviously have to fill both goalie positions. They have their minor league guy ready to graduate, but both Anderson and Ranta are UFAs. So they may have some money to spend on someone like Scheifele if they think they can get those other things in terms of the buy-in. But it's super interesting. And then, there's going to be, we already know that there were eight or four more disappointed teams. There's going to be two more disappointed teams in 2 weeks or fewer, Huss. And, we don't think Florida would be on Mark Scheifele's list, but, some of those other teams certainly could be as well. And like I said, we don't have answers, but it's going to be interesting. It's starting to be a little bit more clear, I think, in terms of
and you bring up, the potential of, a big deal with Toronto, that's sort of, the quote unquote hockey trade, the swapping things around. I am still of the opinion that what makes the most sense for the Winnipeg Jets is, getting younger players under team control. I think that goes along with with the model of frankly how they originally built their team and how you actually can succeed long-term in Winnipeg. Do you think that they are thinking differently when it comes to, what you're going to be getting back for that? I imagine, would Mitch Marner look great in a Jet jersey, regardless of what the cost is? Absolutely. But I mean, you've got him for 2 years, and then that's it. I mean, that doesn't really, I guess that aligns up with Ehlers' contract, and then there's one more year of Kyle Connor. I'm interested in your thoughts as to how aggressive they'll be to try to give them the best chance to be a playoff team and maybe make some noise next season, or if this is a look at what's best for the organization over the course of the next number of years, which would mean packages probably involving younger players, draft picks, and things that you could really build to try to get back to 2018, but it's not happening overnight.
Yeah, it's a combination of those things, Huss. I don't see the Jets going into a 5-year or even a 3-year plan. I mean, that's why the thing that is intriguing to me about Marner, I know that he and Austin Matthews are very close, but guys like Marner, sometimes they want to be Batman. They don't want to just be Robin. And I could be completely wrong about this, and I've wondered about this about Leon Draisaitl as well, Huss, even though he and Connor are best friends. You know, it's not always going to be like Malkin and Crosby. Sometimes that secondary guy wants to be the guy somewhere else. And I'm not saying Mitch Marner is that guy, but what if he is that guy? And what if he gets out of Ontario? I know he loves being a Leaf, but you can also see it and hear it in his voice. Playing in Toronto has caused a lot of angst for Mitch Marner. You could tell in the way he was very, confrontational with reporters leading into Game 4 last round. Does Mitch Marner want to sign up long-term in Winnipeg? Probably not. But if he would be given the opportunity to be the number one guy here up front for a year, then you test the waters. And if you have to trade him in that second year, okay, sure. Now you've only kicked the can down the road. But the thing, it also why I mentioned Kuznetsov the other day, Huss. Now, I had a chance to watch the game the other night, first time I watched the Seattle series this round with the Winnipeg Ice. Brad Lambert's playing center now. Mark Morrison, I think, was on with Dave Minuk yesterday talking about moving Brad Lambert to center. So, I mean, what if you're looking at maybe a safety valve, or I mentioned Olli Jokinen to you last week, Huss, about how a lot of people saw that signing as a bust. Well, what that 2 years did was allow Scheifele the amount of time required to get to the NHL as a 20-year-old instead of having to play as an 18 or a 19-year-old. So maybe you're kind of pushing things a little bit further down the road. I don't think all three guys, if they're all moved, Huss, I think you have to have a combination. You're going to be looking at prospects. I definitely think there's value in getting guys that are on team control for longer. But Huss, the Leafs, they're maxed out with their high-end players. The Jets are not getting Matthew Nyes, even if they would offer Connor Hellebuck, because they need ELC guys just like the Jets needed them in 2018.
That's why I don't think there's much of a fit there. I mean, when I think about some of the
totally
suitors for the Jets, I'm thinking Buffalo, I'm thinking Jersey, I'm thinking the LA Kings, and maybe specific to Hellebuck, but I think you could also put, a similar package or sort of ask when it comes to a player like Pierre-Luc Dubois. Scheifele, to me, is a little bit of a wild card, and, depending on what the demand is for him. I mean, hey, 42 goals is 42 goals, and there will be a team that'll be looking to, give him an opportunity, whether there's an extension or not involved in it. I probably doubt that a little bit more. I think you'd see how it goes. But those two assets, the ones that the Jets, I think, are sort of being forced into dealing if they end up doing it, are Hellebuck and Dubois from where I'm sitting. And, getting things back that, will change the team in the short term, but you only have so many opportunities to move on players like that. And I think, if you do a good job at that, and, to Cheveldayoff's credit, he's been forced in corners before and has come out quite well in these trades. I mean, those are the ones that significantly shape your franchise going forward. And that's sort of what I would think that the ask would be. But, as you said, there's a lot to this, especially when you talk about potentially 4 very important players over the last number of years potentially not being here next year.
Right. And the other thing, too, for me, Huss, I'm not saying it's a perfect fit, but I'm trying for outside the box thinking. We all know what the teams that are being mentioned about, right? That's why I also wonder with Toronto, Joseph Woll had a great playoff. But do you think that whoever's the new GM is going to roll with Joseph Woll as the number one guy next year? Not a hope. So what about Samsonov? Where does that leave him? Woll's the backup. Can Ilya Samsonov do what Alexander Georgiev did in Colorado this year? Can he give the Jets 42 to 50 starts if he's part of the package, right? So he would qualify, I think 3 years of team control, give him a deal around 3.5 or 4, whatever the number is. Now, can he give you 60 starts? No, but he can be a very good number 1A if he's part of the package. But, how big that package is and whatever else, we're not sure. But I just wonder about some of the other things. And hey, do I think for the Jets' stake, they would rather maybe have the opportunity to trade Hellebuck to New Jersey for Timo Meier or Jesper Bratt if they could sign them to a long-term extension? Of course they would. You would much rather have guys in their mid-20s, but every team is looking for that player, Huss. So they're hard to find, and they're even harder to sign. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting. My point is you're going to have to be creative, and it's going to be some combination because you're trying to line up the window, right? You mentioned Connor and Ehlers. So you can't rebuild and expect to be good when those guys are still under contract. So now, does that mean that they would be part of potential deals? With Ehlers, I don't think so. You waited all this time to see what Ehlers is going to be like on the first unit without Mark Scheifele on it. So Ehlers has to be given that opportunity and see where it takes him. Does that mean he becomes an 80-point player, a 100-point player? That's up to Nikolai Ehlers. But he won't be lacking opportunity next year if Scheifele's gone, which is what we expect to be the case. Now, for the other guys, where's Nemesnikov in this deal? Is he on a 2 or 3 year deal? I think he should be or could be. Niederreiter, are the Jets going to are they going to move him or are they going to extend him? Like these are some of the answers that are going to be easier for the Jets to figure out. But in a lot of ways, they're a lot like the Leafs. They need clarity on Hellebuck and Dubois and probably Scheifele before some of the other, moves around the periphery and the edges are going to be made, because much like Austin Matthews, the big guys are the priority. And once that priority is taken care of, then you take care of the other things like revisiting the defense core and what way you're going to go there after things, we heard now Leon Gavanka is also speaking out about how he didn't get an opportunity, right? So
he ripped his ass open.
Well, indeed, the Google Translate is not always. Note to all journalists: when writing headlines, let's be careful on the Google Translate. Not all things are literal.
Hey, Ken, listen.
I would say "played my ass off" would probably be a more likely definition.
Sure that's what he meant to say.
Well, it's probably what he said in German. I mean, this is not on Gavanka. This is on Google Translate, and all of us who are interpreting Google Translate before we rush to judgment.
That would have been one time just to say lower body injury as opposed to everything else that we got from the
Fair
Jets,
point.
unlike a lot of other teams. Hey, listen, we got to run in a sec because Kirt Contois is going to get us ready for the Preakness. And we'll talk about if the team does move on the centers and don't get a guy like that back, who might be able to fit a spot. Max Domi's having a nice playoff run. He's obviously a UFA and some other guys. But just on the way out, there is a sense, I think, amongst a lot of people that Kevin Cheveldayoff is set for life, if you will. I mean, he's the guy going forward. It's very clear that Mark Chipman and the people running this team have confidence that he's the guy to get them through. But I do want to ask, Ken, considering the way these last few seasons have gone, how would you characterize the amount of pressure on Chevy to basically come out on top with these deals? And will that determine his future, or is his future already set regardless? They have confidence he's the guy, that's it.
Oh, they definitely have confidence. Otherwise, he would have been removed. But does he have a lifetime contract like some are suggesting? I don't believe that. I mean, we've talked about this numerous times. Yes, the Jets wanted to build the organization like the Nashville Predators. That's one of the models they are looking at. And David Poile was just recently the longest tenured general manager, and he will fall out of that race at the end of this summer when Barry Trotz takes over officially. One thing we also know, Huss, you worked for them. True North doesn't like to pay people to not work. So I'm not saying that was the deciding factor in the situation, but I would say that after the extension, it was probably unlikely that they wanted to pay Kevin Cheveldayoff for 2 years or whatever it is left to not work. So the other thing that I think is that, I do think he is under some pressure, especially this summer, in terms of how he handled those deals. And to me, this goes back to the Patrick Laine deal. They're not going to forget, if you don't get assets back for Pierre-Luc Dubois, moving a guy like Laine and Rozovic, those are the kind of moves that can get a guy fired. So that's not going to be that it's immediate, but he's going to need to make a bunch of good deals in order for the Jets to remain competitive. And after that, I don't know what the breaking or tipping point is for Mark Chipman, but he knows what it is. And I would say that Kevin Cheveldayoff can't be looking over his shoulder when he's going through this summer. But let's not kid ourselves. This guy that's been along the game for a long time, he knows that if the results aren't there, they'll start looking upstairs at some point. So I would say he's definitely under pressure to make a bunch of important trades for the franchise and organization this summer.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting few weeks. And I mean, I would say this entire season as to what the direction of the club is, how things go, could be a big part of his beyond this season, like long-term future with the club. Weber, have a great long weekend. Hit him straight, and we'll talk to you next week. Enjoy the weather. It's going to be beautiful.
Thanks for having me, and all the best to ASD this summer. Sent Double D a note earlier. I know they had a big day. I missed my chance at the buffet today, unfortunately, due to some other work, but I know they would have had a great day over there and a great weekend and a year ahead for the good folks down that way.
I always wanted to change the time of the show today, just specifically for the
Exactly.
buffet. It's definitely worth it. Thanks for doing this, dude.
Have a great weekend, but man,
right,
thanks for having me.
There's the man himself at Weeb's World on Twitter. You can check out all of his work over at sportsnet.ca. Well, we got ASD starting on Monday. We got the Gold Eyes starting tonight. And, of course, Princess Auto, proud sponsors of the Bombers and the Winnipeg Gold Eyes. And, of course, your boys right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Princess Auto is where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. 2 Winnipeg locations. Pop and see them in store or shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. Lots of lawn work happening right now coming into this weekend. If you need irrigation supplies or services, you need to get on down and talk to our pal Joe at Consolidated Supply, the leaders in irrigation systems, artificial turf, and of course, new and used golf carts is the exclusive Club Guard dealer in Manitoba. They also have other great options for your property, including hot tubs and amazing outdoor kitchen options and small engine parts and repair for the machines you use on a daily basis. Pop by and see Consolidated Supply at the showroom. It's open to the public, 1395 Niagara Road East, or find out more online at cte.ca. Ready for the long weekend? Not if you haven't hit Royal Sports yet. First of all, when it comes to athletic gear, shoes, of course, all licensed merchandise to rep your favorite team, Royals got it. But with spring officially here, soccer players, softball, baseball, tennis, and so much more waiting for you to go out and make the most of the beautiful Manitoba summer. Of course, they 12 months a year, the biggest hockey superstore in town as well, and also have a great selection of bikes of all makes and models. Pop down and see them at Royal Sports and keep an eye at Royal Sports Pembina on Instagram for the next huge tent sale coming off that massive one that got the summer going next week. Royal Sports 750 Pembina Highway, and again on Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina. And do or die tonight for the Winnipeg Ice. If you're looking for a great spot to watch the game, you know where to go. Your local Boston Pizza. The Fanalytics menu is ready to go with the deep-fried pickle spears, the new triple play platter, and, of course, ice-cold schooners, world-famous Boston's wings, and gourmet pizzas as well. And, hey, if you're staying in, you can always order online at bostonpizza.com. All right, big weekend around here, and a big horse racing weekend with the Preakness coming, and of course opening day of Assiniboia Downs on Monday night. Let's welcome in a triumphant return for Kirt Contois to Winnipeg Sports Talk after dropping Mage on us 2 weeks ago. Kirt, it's nice to be able to publicly thank you for that pick. Made a lot of people a little scratch at the Kentucky Derby. Take your victory lap, my friend. What a pick.
Well, Hustler, since I've been coming on, it's about time I really hit one, and it was a good price. A $30 horse, put 20 to win, you get back 300. I had a lot of friends calling me right after the race and thanking me, and usually that doesn't happen. I usually get the other phone call that says, you owe me after the race. Even if they lose by a nose, it wasn't good enough. But yeah, Mage ran absolutely huge.
It was a hell of a pick, a hell of a race, too. I mean, big field, far smaller field coming up for the Preakness, and very quick turnaround. I mean, that's the one thing that kind of stands out to me, Kirt, is just how close these races are together. I mean, we're basically talking just a couple weeks. Is that part of the reason why many of the horses that ran at the Derby are not in at the Preakness?
Definitely is. If you look at these horses, usually they run 3 to 4 weeks in between races. the coming back 2 weeks and 2 weeks, that is really tough on the horses. Back in the day, there was only so many of them, so they kind of followed each other. Now they're coming from all over North America and even all over the world shipping in for these races. So it's not an easy task to go 2 weeks, 2 weeks. It's kind of insane, actually. That's why the Triple Crown is so hard to win.
Now, like Mage was the winner of the Derby, and it was not the favorite. Mage is very much the favorite for the Preakness. I'm just looking. We got this up just over at Coolbet. Obviously, it'll be a little bit different on HPI, you know, as the as it works as you know, horse racing goes, depending on what's coming in. But I mean, I'm looking at Mage as a -152 favorite to win this race. Very different story for Mage coming off of the Derby win into the Preakness now as the clear-cut favorite. Is this Mage's race to lose, Kirt?
Oh, it most definitely is. When you have none of the other Derby hopefuls coming, that what it pretty well does is puts all the second stringers in line. I'm not saying they're not good enough, but they weren't good enough to get in the top 23 of the Derby. So these are all the ones that hoped to get to the Derby, didn't make it. They ran against easier competition for the most part. But Mage coming off that win doesn't have to go against two Phils who ran a great race in the Derby also. All the other horses that won the prep races at short odds has beaten most of these. So Mage, wow, it's amazing, 8-5. I wouldn't have thought that for the second leg, but you knew I was a believer first time out. I'm even a bigger believer now that it's not going against the best they have to offer.
If you don't want to take a chalky favorite, who do you think is the biggest challenge to Mage?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is National Treasure, the one horse. It goes off at a 4-1 morning line, but what the thing is there isn't a lot of speed in the race. The 4, Coffee with Chris, does have speed, but has not tested the graded company, grade 3, grade 2, grade 1, so hasn't done the stepping stones and can't even win at those lower stakes, but will offer speed. But National Treasure actually ran third behind Forte in last year's Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and Forte was the supposed favorite before it got scratched out of the Derby, and that was a great race by National Treasure. It should be ready to go, has tactical speed. We'll be seeing a little closer than Mage, but I don't expect Mage to be sitting more than maybe 6 or 7 lengths off the lead, and that same kind of move, I think that's a winning move for Mage. A big shot at winning the first 2.
How much time in between the Preakness and the Belmont, the final part of the Triple Crown?
Only a couple weeks again. That's why it's so hard to win those 3. And horses will duck the Preakness and then go straight to the Belmont. So we never saw Forte because of veterinary reasons. Got scratched out of the Derby, so wasn't eligible for the Preakness because it was only 2 weeks away. But I'm sure Forte will come back in the Belmont, try and get its glory from before because it did beat Mage in the previous start. But I don't know. I kind of like this Mage horse. I think it's on an upswing, and I think we're seeing a legitimate 3-year-old.
I'm looking at a 5-1 number on Mage to win the Triple Crown. How realistic is that?
I think that's a little bit low. It's good that you got the first one in the bag. This one looks easier, but watch the next race. The horses will be off the regular 4 weeks coming into the race. You'll get Forte probably in there. 2 Phils might come back in there. Angel of Empire, the 3rd place finisher. Practical Move, who is scratched. All of them could head into that race and make it a Derby-like field instead of these ones that I'm not impressed with. This has been a weird year. 5 scratches in the Derby. Now only 1 Derby horse coming back in the Preakness. I've never seen these things before. So that's why I like Mage so much. But the last race is going to be the biggest test.
Kirt Contois with us from Assiniboia Downs. He banged Mage at 15-1 for us a couple weeks ago. And we're going right back with Mage for the Preakness coming up on Saturday. That, of course, is the big worldwide race this week. But Kirt, you and Stretch back in the booth on Monday night, opening night at the races on the Monday of the May long weekend. What's it been like around the track? We talked to Double D, Darrin Dunn, yesterday, and sounds like it's all coming together. Lots of excitement about getting this season going coming up at the end of this long weekend.
Oh, yeah, definitely is. All the horsemen are ready. We got all the early workouts. Right now, everybody's accounts are sitting probably at zero because spring training is just giving money away. They're waiting to make the money. We had entries over the last 2 days. We filled Monday and Tuesday's race cards, and jockeys, trainers, owners, everybody's tickled pink, as me and Stretch also are, and ready to go at it for Monday and Tuesday.
Hey, did you say, are the races set for Monday right now? Have you had a chance to take a look at them at all?
I only looked at them a little bit, so I don't really have a standout horse for you as of right now. I got to look a little bit harder, and I don't look too quick, let's just say.
But put it this way, what Remo and I need to know, I mean, are there a lot of familiar faces, like horses that have been at the track running the last year or two, or is this, should we be expecting a whole new run of horses that we haven't seen before, which makes it a little bit more wide open?
Well, surprising you say that. Your two horses, Otani and McKegg, I think those were the two you talked about last time. Both of them are back. But there is a ton of new ones. Probably, I would say about 30% of the horses are going to be of the new variety. You're going to see a lot at the 10,000 first level allowance races. We got 3 of them over the 2 days. So 21 entered in those 3 races. 7, 8, and 6, or 22, sorry. And that level is going to be so exciting, and a lot of them are brand new, bought from down south over the winter. So there's going to be some new superstars and more favorites that you can make some money on.
Kirt, thanks so much for doing this. Great to have you on a couple weeks ago. We'll see if we can do it again, and we will certainly look forward to seeing you on Monday night out at the track. Again, I guess 6:45, the preview show gets going on the AS Downs YouTube channel with you and Stretch, and then have a great call for day 1 of 50 nights of live racing at ASD this year.
Thanks a lot, Hustler. Looking forward to it, and they're going to be off soon.
I'll see you on Monday night. Say hi to Stretch. Thanks so much. There's Kirt Contois. And again, of course, the Assiniboia Downs gets going. If you want more information on booking a spot in the dining room for a night of live racing, or as Darrin mentioned, some of the other events, go to asdowns.com, or you can give them a call at 885-3000 and make a reservation to go in and take it on. I mean, the world-class buffet, as we mentioned, but there's so much more than going into the dining room. And with this weather, what do we have here? What are we looking at for Monday? 29 and sunny. Are you kidding me? Kurt's got a big smile on his face for that one as well. Well, what a great way to get the season on. And they'll go again on Tuesday as well. And then no Wednesday for the first 2 weeks. And then the regular Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday evening races, 7:30 post time down over at Assiniboia Downs. All right. Oh, we have got quite a leaderboard update to get to you in just a couple minutes. But hey, got to give a big shout out to our friends at Little Brown Jug. We mentioned the Prairie Beer Awards. They absolutely cleaned up. Their black lager, the new generic lager, the queer beer, the Monarch, Honey Brown, all winning awards at the show. And Little Brown Jug taking down the Best Brewery Award as well. So proud of our friends over at Little Brown Jug. And man, things are going well. The patio is open. If you're sticking around the city this weekend, may I suggest pop down and have a few cold ones at the Little Brown Jug patio and tap room at the brewery on William Avenue. And good news, and a few people, if you're at the sports trivia night, you might have seen this, but they've added a couple of food options, including grilled sandwiches. They've got the LBJ, the little bacon jalapeno, a chicken bacon ranch, salami roasted red pepper, apple and brie, the classic grilled cheese, and a vegan grilled cheese as well. Some other snacks and shareables. So adding a few more options, but we all know what the main event is, that great little brown jug beers. And as I say, if you're looking for a lighter beer, kind of more standard, like a domestic, you got to try that new generic lager. And they've got new generic lager merchandise as well. Check it out down at the brewery this weekend, littlebrownjug.ca online if you do want to order for delivery. Our friends over at Aikens Lake are ready for the start of the season. It's a perfect getaway for Manitoba businesses to have a very unique team building experience or reward your top customers. No better FaceTime with your top clients than out at fishing paradise like Aikens Lake. And as world-class as the time on the water is, the only thing better is the world-class hospitality, the Terren family that runs it. Find out more about availabilities. There still is limited spots open for this summer. aikenslake.com, or fire off an email to our pal Pitt at aikenslake.com. Let's get to a scoreboard report for the PGA Championship. And while I do that, we've got marbles open. So I think Remis. Oh, wait.
No. People jumped the gun. 1 sec.
Oh, peep the gun. Okay. If you've typed marbles, you won't get in. Wasn't sure about what our situation is with the, if we were going with that other one that we were capturing the names on or not.
Yeah, no, I switched back to the original one, so it's good now. Now go.
Okay, there you go. If you put it in before, you got to do it again. Exclamation mark marbles. It's about that time for marbles on a Friday afternoon, heading into the long weekend. But before we do that, PGA Championship. And is that a Canadian flag at the top of the leaderboard? I think it is. Our guy, Corey Connors, 2 under for his round. CC is at 5 under par right now with the solo lead at the top of the leaderboard, 1 shot ahead of Scotty Scheffler of the United States. Sheff is 1 under. Now, Corey was playing the back 9 first. Scotty Scheffler's playing the front 9 first. So Corey's definitely going to have some tough holes on that front 9. And Scotty will have maybe a couple birdie opportunities, but this course is playing so tough, and the weather is tough right now this afternoon as well. They'll just want to survive and get through this. Both of them had 67s opening round, 3 under pars. So just a great start so far through about 27 holes for Corey Connors out at Oak Hill. At 3 under par, Victor Hovland, Keegan Bradley, Bryson DeChambeau, Justin Suh is at 2 under par. And then we've got another Canadian, Taylor Pendrith, our Coolbet guy. He's 1 under and in the clubhouse. Justin Rose is in the clubhouse at 1 under. Min Woo Lee having a hell of a round today. He's 4 under par today. He's up into the top 10 along with Kirt Kitayama and Callum Tarrant. Couple of other players to take a look at. Sahith Theegala is even right now. Brooks Koepka, Cam Smith 2 over. Justin Thomas 4 over. And my pal Tony Finau had kind of a rough last few holes. Nuked the back 9 after a 41 on the front 9 yesterday. I think Tony's going to be playing the weekend. It's still anyone's tournament right now, but Corey Connors at the top of the leaderboard, 8 holes in to his second round. Of course, our golf reports brought to you by our great friends at Breezy Bend, one of Manitoba's top private clubs with a championship course, top-notch practice facilities, and the best 19th hole around on their beautiful course-side patio. There is a waiting list for membership for next year. If you'd like more information on everything Breezy has to offer and to get on that list, give our pal Corey Johnson a call or find out more online at breezybend.ca. Let's get Remis back in here. And Remis, we should get to the Coolbet lines and see what's cooking for tonight over at Coolbet before we get ready for some marbles action to get going. Fun to have Kirt on. And man, we hit a lot of different topics with Weber today, but there really is a lot of interesting things happening as it pertains to the Winnipeg Jets. And obviously the big news today, if people missed it, Kyle Dubas out as GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, is there a Coolbet line on who the next GM of the Leafs is going to be. Is that out anywhere?
Let's see.
Yet?
Do we have some NHL specials?
I think it's a bit early. The Brendan Shanahan press conference was happening during this, and it's really fascinating what's going on. Ken said this. I know his colleague Luke Fox was tweeting this all out, but it sounds like they were negotiating a comeback to bring Kyle Dubas back, and he knew maybe Dubas had some concerns, I guess, relating to his family, which he mentioned in the press conference, and he told Dubas not to go out for the press conference. He did, and then after that, I think that contributed to changing his mind, and additionally, Dubas maybe changed some of the terms of the extension they were working on, and he decided he didn't want to bring him back. And he said doesn't consider Dubas's tenure a failure, but mentions a need for new ideas, and they're going to have Brandon Pridham, I believe he's assistant GM there, as a transition period. I mean, we're about a month into the, month before the draft. Free agency's coming, but you don't have a GM. That's the one thing about going a deep playoff run is that the longer you go, if you want to make changes, it's tough to implement them. And he says this was a Shanahan decision. Pretty.
Well, and again, there's so much going on there. I mean, we talk about the trades or the moves that are expected to be made here in Winnipeg. They got to get a deal done with Austin Matthews and have that thing ready to go for the 1st of July, because if not, he's got 1 year left. He can go straight to free agency. A full no move kicks in, and a full no move kicks in for Mitch Marner as well. So, I mean, Jets, as Ken mentioned, Jets maybe not the only team with some fascinating options and things that have to happen, presumably, before we finish up in Nashville at the draft coming up at the end of June. But let's quickly get to those Coolbet lines. Again, if you just popped in, Marble Race registration is open, ! Marbles. We'll get to that in just a minute. For tonight, Dallas at Vegas to kick off the Western Conference Final. Bars set pretty high for excitement and entertainment for last night's game. Vegas -116 on the money line. Dallas Stars basically even money, -101. And the total for the game is 5.5. Canes -145 favorites for the series, or for the game two tomorrow. And we do have series prices. Vegas -128. And the Dallas Stars +108. NBA playoffs tonight. We've got the Heat and the Celtics. Celtics 9.5-point favorites and a massive money line number of -435. The Heat continue to get slept on, and they continue to make people pay. Tomorrow, Lakers -210 at home after a big comeback win by the Nuggets last night. Real missed opportunity for the LA Lakers. Now, we do have a lock shot partner parlay for tonight. They really owe us one last night after having to stay up for 4 OTs just to have our hearts broken on a thing that had everything in with the exception of that Carolina win. But we're doing one of our favorite multi-sporters tonight. 3 games, 3 different sports, starting it off with the Vegas Golden Knights. Money line, Knights to win. Miami Heat +9.5 points. And my guy, Kikuchi, on the mound, looking to go 6-0 for the Jays. Jays money line to win as well. So Toronto and Vegas to win, and the Heat to keep it within 9 points. That one's paying +535. You can jump on it in the exclusive sections under the Lock Shop Partner Parlay. And if you haven't played a Coolbet before, use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus on your first deposit up to $200. Kikuchi time tonight, Remo. I can't wait.
Love it. I'll go. I love one thing. My favorite, there should be a bonus, like when you do a parlay that has 3 different sports. You got baseball, the hockey. I think there should be. They should put in a built-in. I guess that's why it's an exclusive. You do get that additional.
There is a little
odds.
bit of a boost. There, yeah. When I put that in myself into the site, it was +489.
Okay, so there it is.
Yeah, so we do get it. We run with the lock shop, but we got to get a winner tonight. We've got a couple. Dusty's been killing it, by the way. He and I shift off each week with our daily pick that's out at the Coolbet socials. He's been hitting player props. Perfect so far this week. He'll have another one later on today to try to run the table for the week. Oh, and by the way, live betting is also in effect for the PGA Championship. Should check that out right now. Scotty Scheffler, one back, is the clear favorite right now. He is at plus 130 to win the tournament. Vic Hovland, second at 6-1. And Corey Connors, who's leading the tournament right now, plus 900. Those numbers will change throughout the day.
He's leading.
He is leading. There's just a lot of golf left to go. But hey, if you're liking Corey right now, jump in on it right now while he's got the lead before he gets a couple more birdies and the number goes down. And again, you can check that after the round today, and it will change throughout the weekend. So if the guys you were originally on have busted out, you want to get a piece of somebody that's on the leaderboard, like a Corey Connors, it's all there over at coolbet.com. And you can also bet the Preakness there if you'd like. We were just talking about the and this is a little different. I mean, when you're betting on the horse races, like on a horse site or at the track, those numbers will change. These numbers are locked in. So Mage, minus 152, but something like that Coffee with Chris, 40-1, and that number won't change. It's locked in once you make the bet. So yeah, lots going on over at Coolbet today. I'll be back on the daily picks next week. And today, Dustin and I, we won't go through these all in the program, but check out today's Lock Shop. Bomber fans, as I mentioned with Bauming, we went through our favorite futures picks, some win total numbers, and spoiler alert, Bombers plus 240 to win the Grey Cup, and a real nice number, plus 250 on the Bombers to get between 13 and 15 regular season wins. So check out today's Lock Shop Bets on YouTube. Give us a sub. And of course, you can search the Lock Shop wherever you get your podcasts as well for the audio version of that. Some fun preseason CFL talk and looking at some of our win totals. Love Ottawa this year, Reem. Bobby Dice is head coach. Masoli back, hopefully healthy. 8 is their win total. I'm hammering the over on that. I think they get 9 wins for sure.
I think Ottawa was last year. We were on Ottawa. We were like, they've made a lot of moves, bringing Masoli, and then Masoli got hurt, and they didn't have a quarterback. That was it. And they brought in, from Hamilton, Acklin, and didn't they sign Addison as well, who just got cut? Is that? Yeah, they signed. He's on the injured list, Braylon Addison. So they're trying to bring back these Hamilton guys with Masoli. And again, we were on Ottawa. Ottawa was the breakout team, and then he got hurt. So I don't mind that one. And the East, not very good. So go with that. But I am looking forward, Huss, to CFL. I love playing CFL fantasy on DraftKings. We do that. So that has really kept me engaged and informed about the entire league.
Yes, indeed. All right, last call for marbles, everyone. If you Remis is going to close that up right away. So if you just popped in, you're going to get right under the wire, ! Marbles. Remember, if you want to close that up and get ready to go. Couple things that I'll hit while Remis does that. Of course, Fish back, home opener tonight, 6:30 first pitch. I did see Clay Young down at the ballpark today, and I saw video of the Grand Slamwich for the first time.
Oh, baby.
That is that beast of a sandwich done on a full loaf of garlic bread with burgers, hot dogs, chicken fingers, sort of like the Gold Eyes version of the Walby burger, but it's an entire loaf of bread. $60. You're going to need a number of friends probably out with you. Anyways, going to be out there, Fish home all weekend long. Now, the Centennial Cup continues tonight, and I was sort of mixed up. I didn't realize yesterday was an off day. I got a little jump the gun. Those semis are today. Now, coming up at 3:30 this afternoon, OHL or Ontario battle, Collingwood Blues from the Ontario Junior Hockey League and the Ottawa Junior Senators from the CCHL will play. And then tonight, 7:30 p.m., the barn will be rocking for the Portage Terriers. Who are taking on the Yarmouth Mariners. Terriers will be favored in that game, I'd imagine. They were 3-1 through the round robin. Yarmouth got in at 1, 2, and 1. And then the winners of those two games move on. The Battlefords North Stars, SJHL champions, will be in one semifinal. And the Powerhouse Brooks Bandits will be in the other final. Brooks with what they won one game 9-0. They won another one 5-1. They won the Bait Yarmouth 7-2 as well. A real powerhouse team that Brooks unit is, and we'll get a chance to see them on the weekend playing against the winners of one of these games today. So good luck to the Terriers. And of course, the other thing on the docket tonight, and you can watch it on TSN, Dan Robertson, Kevin Sawyer with the call, the Winnipeg Ice playing for their playoff lives tonight. If they can win this game, the series comes back to Winnipeg Sunday night for what would be a great Game 6. But the Ice got to get there after dropping the first 2 games in Seattle. 9 o'clock puck drop tonight. TSN will have it. And good luck to the Ice. And hopefully we'll be talking about some playoff hockey at the arena downtown on Sunday and, dare we say, Monday night for a potential Game 7. All right, Remo, we ready to go? Some marbles? It's great to see our pal Tristan Rivers at the K&R event. Had a good chat with Tristan, who's still doing his thing.
Yeah, it was great seeing Tristan there. I've closed it. I'm going to get the music lined up, and I'm going to pull out the entries. 159 names in the list, Huss. One thing we didn't touch on was the Arizona Coyotes social media usage, Huss, over the last, I don't know, like 24 hours, putting out the poll yesterday. Where should they?
Hey, Pac, where should we try for our arena next? Gilbert, Mesa. There was a couple other options. I mean, that felt like Gutierrez went and got the password and just went in, and someone with absolutely no clue. Well, and I sent this to you shortly afterwards. That happened, and like an hour later, Teamwork Online, which is a site that has listings for jobs in the sports industry, had 3 different social media and digital openings at the Arizona Coyotes. So I'm pretty sure that wasn't the work of a legit social media staffer. I think that was just somebody up at the up near the top of the organization that decided they'd throw out a tweet, and it looked amateur hour.
Did you see their tweet from today, Huss? This is
no,
how
I
you
haven't
get.
seen it
This is
yet.
how you get likes. If this tweet pack, that's what they call their fans, because like Coyote Pack. If
Yep.
this tweet gets 20K likes by the end of the day, we will leak our new arena plan.
Have they done it yet? There's 22,000 likes.
No, I guess that answers the question. There are no new arena plans.
So they're full of it. I've had it about enough of the Coyotes for 1 week, to be perfectly honest with you. Have some shame, guys. I mean, yeah, the comments back. Hey, by the way, Pat Kanuga's there. Pat, great to see Pat over on Tuesday at the K&R extravaganza as well. Yeah. Oh, and the other thing that we should mention, the Panthers. Is there anything stupider in professional sports than intentionally putting a logo on the floor and then getting mad at people for stepping on it? I don't think so. They've got a massive portable logo that the Panthers put on the floor, and now everyone's jumping around it. Shout out to the teams that had the common sense on putting the logo on the ceiling or on the wall as opposed to on the floor. I would say it's somewhat disrespectful to have it on the floor anyways, but that's been a long pet peeve of mine, and honestly one of the dumbest traditions in all of pro sports.
Yeah, this is a reaction to Greg Wyshynski, who was on the program earlier this week, tweeting out yesterday, the Panthers have a portable floor mat with their logo in their locker room. Given the size of the visitors' room at PNC Arena, this logo takes up about 65% of the floor. Media are scolded for stepping on it, which is almost unavoidable given its square footage. Good times. And I agree with you. I tweeted out, this is just done to troll media and locker room visitors. Probably the dumbest thing ever. If you don't want it stepped on, maybe don't put it on the floor. I don't understand why they do this. Probably because they want to make people look stupid.
I guess it's the bully mentality. Who knows? Anyways, I laughed about that. I mean, the comments.
You never played the
back.
game, Huss. You wouldn't understand.
Yeah, but what it's like to step on a logo on a carpet that, which is a floor where people walk on. Thanks for that. All right, let's do some marbles. Do we have Tristan Rivers ready to go, fired up, locked and loaded for a long weekend edition of the WST Marble Race?
Yes, I believe I do. We have, first of all, we have 100. Listen to this, Huss. We have 159 entries and only not that many likes. We have more entries than likes. I don't like that,
Come on,
that
people.
ratio.
You got to be subscribed and you got to give us a thumbs up, please and thank you. We've got a great hoodie from our friends at Shipham & Associates, a WST hoodie. And again, got to be subscribed to win. So if you're in the marble race, least you can do is help the boys out with a sub and a little thumbs up. So let's do that. And let's play some Tristan Rivers music. And then let's get ready to kick off the long weekend with the marble race on WST.
Yeah, let me just get it picked. I got to choose which theme we're going to do for the long weekend. I got to say, great weather here coming up. Driving around, blasting. Oh, God. I don't know. Just the worst music with the windows rolled down. Well, I threw on some Nickelback today, rolled down the windows, opened. It was actually pretty awesome.
You just see you driving around South River Heights, cranking Nickelback as all the young families walk around going, who is that jerk?
Oh, yeah. It's pretty awesome. So here, let me pick the thing. Here. Let's do this. Ready?
We're ready.
It's Friday, another week of work's gone by. You deserve to treat yourself, maybe a nice cream cake or a bottle of wine. From the whole day in so lax you can't deny. One is ever leaving for pleasure. If I love you try, it's time to do a marble race. Now to separate best to worst. Marble race. And marble the punctuation first. Marble race. Don't fail, you will suffer the always saying. Marble race. If you don't know before it's too late. Just go.
All right, there you go. Tristan Rivers music. Great to see Tristan and Candace on the weekend. Who, Tristan does the songs, Candace does the great videos, and we are all richer for it. All right, Remo, let's get after it. Are we going to go to a new one after what happened last week, or? Oh, and by the way, shout out to my guy Shorin, who is watching the marble race today from Rato on the east coast of Sweden in cottage country.
That sounds amazing.
It does sound amazing.
And one thing about that marble race last week. So what happened was someone posted the replay in the Discord, and join the Discord. It's in the description for chatting with other viewers, when we're not on stream. But Tristan fell off the track. So it said he got eliminated, but I guess the placement of the finish line was below the track. So he fell off and landed somehow right on the finish line. That's how he won in 20 seconds. It was crazy. So we had to redo.
And then the reason it ended
one.
was that the fire started because he had gone in so much and it ended up burning everybody, and Tristan was the winner.
Yes,
But
a wild
all-time
stuff.
moment.
So we got to pick our track here. I do want to say one thing before we bring it. All this Coyotes talk. I think we do have a vested interest in here in Winnipeg about where they go, because we want to know which team is going to be the holder of Teemu Selanne's record of 76 goals as a rookie. Wherever they go, that team is going to have the Jets record. So we want to know where that holder is going to be. I don't think that gets talked about enough.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows how that? I'm more concerned about who's going to be in the Central Division.
No,
And I would love
want
it
to
to
know
be
which
Kansas
team.
City so we can go road trips and go to a Jet game and a Chiefs game on the same weekend. That being said, I went to the Royal Rumble in Houston, spent a week down there a couple years ago, right before the pandemic. Unbelievable city. Would be a lot of fun. I think I spent some time there as well for Moose playoffs one time. I went down with the team for like 6 days. It was one of those 2-3-2s, and it was great. Got a couple days off to mix it up there. Anyways, let's do this race. We got a long weekend to get to.
I want to talk more about the Coyote. We've spent enough time.
That's
on
a
it for the last
banned
10
topic.
years.
The Coyotes are banned.
They were for a while banned, but I think they're back now. They're back.
You know what? Listen, let's do the marble race, and then you can go and look at old YouTube videos of the Goldwater Institute and Glendale City Council, just for a little blast from the past like old days. Corey Connors, by the way, still one shot up on Scotty Scheffler and Keegan Bradley at the PGA.
I do hope when the Coyotes move that they send the records back to Winnipeg. This new franchise or the new location doesn't need them. We haven't touched on that, and that's my number one pet peeve, so I needed to bring it up. I'll shut up. What are we picking here? Where's Stormy?
Let's see here. What about no, I don't think On the Felt is a good one. What about Emerald Downs? Have we done that one before?
I was looking at that one.
62. Let's check that one out. And as I say, we'll if it sucks for some reason, we reserve the right to abort in the first 10 seconds or so of the race. Good luck to everybody. Oh yeah, we're aborting. Emerald Downs. Oh, it's like a horse racing track.
It's a literal racetrack.
Yeah, that's a nice little plug for AS Downs on Monday, but no, we don't want that.
Oh, and it's actually good because I don't think I loaded the record. Or if I'm talking over you, something screwed up on the stream, and you're coming in on a delay for me, but that's fine.
Oh, okay. Well, pick one. I know there was a vote for Temple of Steve. We could just go to the funnel. Funnel's right at the top. That is a tried and true one. What is it? Number 5, the funnel. Let's do that one. That one never disappoints. Very, very fair. The funnel. Good way to go to an old favorite as we get into this long weekend. This is a classic, one of the all-time greats. All right, 159 marbles in it. Good luck to everyone. If you win, you're going to need to send us an email with your size. And I know Hugh and Dave are popping by after the show today to pick up their hoodies. Thanks again to our friends at Shipham & Associates for providing the WST hoodies, our version of the Masters green jacket. Who's going to win it? Only one way to find out. That is to drop the marbles on WST to get this long weekend underway. Let's go, Reem. All right. The funnel. Looks like Jason Jett out at the start. You don't want to get too high here. Yeah, nice start for Jason Jett. Who will be first down? Gene Okerlund.
Yeah, Gene Okerlund. Okay, has Gene Okerlund suggested in chat the Jets should buy the records, much like WWE bought the ECW video archive.
Oh, Gene, that's amazing. Mean Gene with an absolute classic. All right, there's Brass Bonanza. Brass Bonanza would have been going for the Canes last night, I'm sure. Jason Jett, Kay Gotts, and Bozeman all the way in Sweden watching his marble sniff around the top 10 right now. Wouldn't that be something if Shorn actually won for the first time while he was in holidaying in cottage country in eastern Sweden? Brass Bonanza still in first right now. Who else is in the mix? This is anyone's right now. We'll see if Brass Bonanza gets caught up here at all. No, a pretty nice move through that one. But now we got more funnels. Anything can happen now. Who will get through first? Will it be Brass Bonanza? Yes, it will. Russ Lowen. Patrolman Pete just went over the top rope. Big ice fan, Patrolman Pete. He wants his luck for his hockey team tonight. See if the ice can get it done. Lawrence Richard also popped out. Ooh, we got Camaro. 928 now in first place. Slurp Werple and Mike. Is that Mike Fernandez? I can't see the back of his head, but anyways, Mike in there. Camaro is rolling right now. Slurp Werple and Mike Fagunez. All right, Camaro in first place. Slurp Werple trying to catch him. Who is it going to be? It looks like it's the Camaro. 928 with the win today. Slurp Werple in second. Mike F in third. Holy smoly. Keith S. Travis Spratt. Johnny Bender. Great name. Doug Zapp. Bardo. And Russ Lowen for the win. Camaro 928. Nicely done. Camaro, send us an email, winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com. Let us know your size. We'll get in touch with you so you can come and pick it up. Good old funnel, Reem. Always a good one.
Funnel's a classic.
Yeah. Patrolman Pete, darn rights, Huss. The ice can have my luck. Gene Okerlund. Making us laugh is sweeter than any hoodie I could win a Marvel race. Dude, the ECW video collection line. Amazing. And here is Candace Jane coming in and Vanishing Point taking their sweet time joining us to complete the marble race. Oh, someone's still going. Who's this? Trevor Frost. Trevor could very well be getting burned. Let's see what happens. Does he get taken out by the fire or does he make it to the final?
I think he's going to get it.
Trevor's going to make it before the fire comes. Trevor fashionably late to the party. And there you go. Camaro 928. Nicely done. What a way to start off the long weekend. Fish tonight. I'm going to be out there. Say hi if you see me. Probably be hanging around Craft Beer Corner. Already deciding what I'm going to eat tonight. I'm not getting the Grand Slamwich yet. I'm going to wait till Remo and a couple of the fellas come with, and we can tackle that as a group sometime. Well, I think we should get it at one point and do a video on it and show it off.
Oh, for the content purposes, it's probably the right move. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's content. But that Big Smoke Barbecue, I love. Pierogies, Mr. Pierogi or whatever it's called. I don't know. Definitely get a few Little Brown Jugs. See what's on tap at Craft Beer Corner. And welcome the Gold Eyes back to the ballpark for another season. And then to finish up the weekend, don't forget Monday night is the opening night of Assiniboia Downs. That'll get going at 7:30. I know the dining room's completely full for night one, but still free parking, free admission. Head in there, grab a program, have some fun, and take in what's going to be a gorgeous day. I believe 29 degrees. What's going on for you? You got any big plans for the long weekend there, dude?
I think the dinosaurs are back at the zoo.
Oh!
So I'm probably going to check that out. I was tipped off last week that they are returning this year. So I will be there one day this weekend for sure.
Jeez. Well, speaking of content, you need to take a couple pics of the dinosaurs.
Yeah, they're back. So we'll see. I don't know what else. Probably getting outside. I haven't cleaned up our deck from the winter. I still got this tarp over all of it. So I got to make the backyard, ready.
You're going to be getting a list, I have a feeling.
No. So we'll see what's going on there. Probably watching these hockey games tonight, although, I watched a week's worth of games yesterday. Just kidding. But
so, well, as I say, we got to get back in. I'm so choked. I thought we had that plus 600 banger last night before Matthew Tkachuk ruined it. Tonight, Vegas, Blue Jays, Heat plus 9.5 if you want to jump on our exclusive over at Coolbet. All right, great week. Folks, have an awesome long weekend. Make the most of it, whether you're getting to the ballpark or the track or one of our beautiful golf courses, heading out to the lake. Do it safely, but have a great time. And this weather is going to be beautiful. Usually, historically, May long weekends have sucked weather-wise. Not this year. Shout out to Mother Nature, and I shout out to all of you. Hit that thumbs up on your way out if you haven't already. Subscribe and tell a friend about Winnipeg Sports Talk this weekend and how they can find us. Love to get more people on for the ride. For Remo, I'm Huss. Have a great long weekend. Thanks for being with us. Thanks to the sponsors that make this show happen each and every day. And we'll see you on Tuesday, 1 p.m. Central, right here on YouTube. Have a great one, everyone, and thanks for hanging with us.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.